Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. Magic Engine, Opening Homelander Template. Chapter 81. Next day, Ivan didn't even go to Gila. Instead, hang out at home, sleep, and play games with Natasha Romanoff. Although this behavior is shameful, but Ivan also tried hard. But after he found that he was at this point, it was useless to work hard. This is real. All the ability control, Ivan is all familiar with and can't be familiar with anymore. His own ability and proficiency have basically reached the peak. And other ways to improve ability. It's time to collect those 2 infinite gems next. But that was the next few days. It doesn't matter these days. As for the absorption of solar radiation and social popularity to enhance the strength. Although the former rose very slowly, he also basked in the sun in the backyard. As for otherwise, it doesn't require him to come out. Natasha Romanoff held him high at shield. In the New York Times, BBC, Empire News, The Latest Times, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and more. Except for the spontaneous remarks made by fans. Natasha Romanoff asked his agents to compile articles and videos from time to time to attract fans. These suction powders are converted into Ivan's power. Definitely, although this power is only a drop in the bucket for him, it is worthless. He doesn't have to do anything. Natasha Romanoff will have it all in place. Finally, time passed day by day. Countdown 4 days. 3 days. 2 days. On the night of the penultimate day, Ivan and Natasha Romanoff are in the backyard, holding red wine juice popcorn, and the viewer Loki jumps out of the portal and beats a group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. See the doctor being controlled by a mind scepter. Natasha Romanoff asked unexpectedly, "What kind of gear is this?" When she asked this sentence, Loki took Hawkeye with another set. Then take the mind scepter to control Hawkeye. Mind scepter. Ivan took a sip of wine. It's the mind gem, one of the 6 infinite gems, but they don't know it. Then you want this one too. Natasha Romanoff wiggled around Ivan a little excitedly. 3 infinite gems. The most powerful gem in the 3 universes is about to fall into the hands of his man. Natasha Romanoff can't help but smile. You don't move yet. Ivan pressed Natasha Romanoff's waist. Twist like this. It was not the Chitauri army who suffered first. It was Natasha Romanoff's body. Immediately after. The battle in the underground research base has reached a fever pitch. Put that thing down. Loki, dressed in a green reindeer outfit, pointed the scepter to the box in Fury's hand. In that box, the space gem is stored. Fury turned slowly, looked at Loki and said, "I remember you. In Mexico, Ivan pulled you out when you were invisible." Speaking of which, Fury seems to have enough confidence. He began to speak arrogantly. "He's in New York right now, with our agent, and I think you don't want to wait for him to come." "Really?" Nick Fury said so. Loki's face began to change. He couldn't forget that Ivan was more than a nuke. But the next moment, Hawkeye, who was controlled by the psychic scepter, became filial. He glanced at Fury, then said to Loki, "There is no direct relationship between him and S.H.I.E.L.D. and Ivan, only Natasha Romanoff can directly contact Ivan, and this research is hidden from Romanoff's agent, and Ivan will not know it for a short time. And the Romanov agent is Ivan's woman. As long as we don't move the Romanov agent and provoke Ivan, we can delay it for a while." Hawkeye said this. Fury's already dark face felt as uncomfortable as constipation. Special. In 2 sentences, S.H.I.E.L.D. is exposed. How does this play? At the moment, Fury began to regret not letting Natasha Romanoff in. At the very least, things are negotiable. And Natasha Romanoff would be here now. She is a roar called. "Isn't this Loki called reindeer in front of you finished?" Ah. Nick Fury sighed inwardly, then slowly put down the chest with the space gem in his hand. He looked at Loki, wondering how to stall for time. He's right, but we also have SOS emergency contact devices. Nick Fury is talking nonsense and lying. He looked at his watch and pointed to the time on it. It's 11:56 p.m., and as long as I don't send a security message before 12, the Romanov agent will notify Ivan that Earth is threatened. And the default is that I have an accident and cannot send the message in person. He's still lying. Hawkeye, still filial, stood up. He looked at the instrument with increasing energy in the distance and said. He wanted to stall for time and wait for this energy to explode and bury us all underneath. With that, Hawkeye looked up at the roof of the base. Hundreds of meters deep, you chose this position to prevent Ivan from knowing. See here, let's not talk about how the corners of the marinated egg twitched. Anyway, Ivan watching the live broadcast in Angel Palace will disappear. Natasha Romanoff was lying on Ivan's chest, her shoulders shaking with laughter. She didn't expect such a dramatic scene to happen. Not to mention Natasha Romanoff. Even Ivan, who knew the plot, laughed. The big plot remains the same, the small plot is messing around, right? And at the moment's underground experimental base, Nick Fury's face was as black as the bottom of a pot at home. He never thought of it. Loki's scepter can be so powerful. How could he betray Hawkeye to such a degree? More than just betraying S.H.I.E.L.D. Even thinking about the enemy. Hundreds of meters deep. Loki looked up above his head, then looked at the increasingly violent energy not far away. He also knew that it couldn't be delayed any longer. Beep. Loki lifts the scepter, and a blast of energy hits Fury. Fury was immediately knocked to the ground. And Loki doesn't care whether he can patch or not. He just wanted to hurry up and take the space gem. Loki stepped forward and took the chest containing the space gem. Then he left immediately with Hawkeye and the doctor. After some time, Hill and Phil Coulson came from outside. Watching Nick Fury limp, Hill immediately asked, "What happened?" "Here comes Loki, he's got the doctor and Hawkeye, it's going to blow up. Phil Coulson, get out of here." Phil Coulson nodded and immediately went outside to call someone to prepare. Then, Fury spoke to Hill again. "Call some people to rescue these data and equipment, as much as you can get." But, Hill looked embarrassed. This place is about to explode, no one knows the exact time, the agents go in. These technologies are more important than them. Fury said sternly. These technologies are the results of research in the last century until now. If possible, I would rather have all these technical materials. Hill couldn't bear it. She clenched her fists, but Fury was the director and she could only give opinions, not make decisions. Seeing the emergency, Hill had no choice but to take out the walkie-talkie. "Come on some agents and take all the things here." And then, it's the normal part of the story. Ivan felt normal and stopped watching. And Natasha Romanoff still watched with interest. At this time, her agent's phone also rang. Hee. Natasha Romanoff cleared her throat. Then the phone was connected. "Deputy Director Hill, what's the matter?" "Natasha Romanoff, we have something going on here and need your help." Natasha Romanoff looked at the dark energy projection in front of her. The matter of the space gem had been kept secret from her. If Natasha Romanoff hadn't been quick-witted and found the clue, he might not have known it yet. As a result, now that something happens, I think of myself. And just now, Nick Fury has a really thick skin. He even released Ivan as a shield. As a result, it was revealed by Hawkeye, who everyone knew well. Natasha Romanoff thought about it. Or look at Ivan first, and ask for advice. Ivan nodded. It's okay to go, just play anyway. With Natasha Romanoff's current ability, there is no danger on Earth. After seeing Ivan agree, Natasha Romanoff nodded and agreed to Hill. Address, I'm going over now. With Natasha Romanoff gone, the plot was pulled back by the timeline. Aerospace carrier lifts off. Captain America aboard. Iron Man aboard. Little Spider-Man aboard. Even Hulk was found by them thousands of miles away. But before coming back, I still asked for Ivan's opinion. But Ivan agreed. But this does not mean that Ivan let the plot go smoothly. Think about it. At the moment, Loki carries the Tesseract with the space gem. A mind scepter with the mind gem in hand. It's like having two gems in Loki's hands at the same time. Maybe Loki at the moment didn't even think about it. The two most powerful treasures in this universe, at the moment, are in his hands. If only Loki knew what infinite gems really did. It's estimated that the hind legs will be snapped off. But no more. Ivan stood up, ready to go. Compared to at the moment when two infinite gems get together is also the best moment. What's the point of harassing the Chitauri army? It is true that the gem is swallowed in the hand. Next moment, in a flash, his figure appeared above an underground base near New York. This is the research base that Loki and Dr. At the moment, two infinite gems, along with Wanda and Quicksilver are all here. Ivan is ready to go. But the next moment, Ivan looked around. Ding, space-time fluctuations detected, suspected space-time gate, whether to block the encryption surrounding space-time. With hints from the engine, Ivan knew who was coming. Let her come over. Next second, a golden gate of time and space opened. Wearing a yellow robe, the Ancient One magician with a bald head flew out. Ivan squinted and smiled. Ancient One. Ancient One also smiled. It seems that your ability is much more than exposed. Speak straight. Ivan's eyes began to light up with a faint golden light. Ancient One can come anytime. But I didn't come before and I didn't come after, so I chose this time to come. He just picked the time when he wanted to do it. Does this even need an explanation? The visitor is not good. Ancient One smiled. Although it's a bit sudden, I'm here to persuade. Why don't you decide after listening to my words? Ivan didn't answer. Meant to make you hurry up. Come here at this time. This was the first time he honored the magician, but also the last. Ancient One started with a smile. You know, there are timelines in the universe, and while each timeline has countless branches, one branch will always become reality. I've seen countless timelines in Eye of Agamotto, but only this one has you, and it's also the most confusing of all timelines. And the point of confusion is that you get 3 infinite gems from here, and after that, Eye of Agamotto is invalid for you. After hearing Ancient One's words, Ivan nodded. So what? You mean, you are afraid that this timeline will become the main line and become an uncontrollable and unpredictable existence? Ancient One did not answer. But obviously that's what it means. In Eye of Agamotto, the Ancient One can only see the moment Ivan gets 3 infinite gems. From that moment on, this timeline has become a chaotic existence. No one can know what happened after this timeline. What has become? Not even the time administration can do it. Ancient One was silent for a while before speaking out. If possible, let the timeline move forward normally. During this time, I have watched countless knots. Money is good, but I still don't worry about this one. Normal push. Ivan smiled. You and I are both people in the timeline, not the existence that jumped out of the timeline. Isn't your current behavior a plot that was arranged when the timeline was advancing normally? I have my story, you have your story, right? This time, Ancient One was silent for a longer time. She slowly lowered her head, not knowing what she was thinking. After a while, she said again. I own Soul Gem and have seen many endings, and even if the odds of success in the end are low, I don't trust a timeline that isn't on the ending. Ancient One raised his head and shook his head slowly. Even if you do something, I have my responsibility. No problem. Ivan smiled calmly. There's no right or wrong in this, it's just that you and I have different positions. Yes. Ancient One nodded. She was right, and so was Ivan. It's the position that's wrong. The Ancient One couldn't let a chaotic timeline unfold before its eyes. It is her responsibility, and Ivan couldn't give up infinite gems because of Ancient One's words. Otherwise he is sappy. At this time, boom, a wave of blue energy spreads from the house below. Ivan frowned and probed directly with dark energy. In the room, the doctor has actually completed the research on the energy launch device. And Tesseract has also been installed on the device to start Shing. And the energy fluctuation just now was a sign of the opening of the large space-time gate. Ivan looked up at the sky. The blue sky has opened a huge portal. And the long-awaited Chidori army also swarmed. Ancient One looked up to the sky. Then he lowered his head and said to Ivan, in that timeline is the Banda ability, in other timelines, it should be activated on the Stark building. Changed, really changed. Even if the process changes, the core nodes will still be discovered as usual. Ivan at the moment realized that this portal launcher would have been activated earlier even if the Ancient One hadn't come to stop him. At the moment, a huge army of Chidori has poured in from outside the gate of time and space. Chidori Flight, Chidori Behemoth, Cheetah Swiss Soldier. They plunged headlong into the heart of New York City. Then the frenzy started. As long as they are visible, they will destroy it. Ivan sighed inwardly. From his dark energy perspective, Loki has sneaked away from the dark passage to join the Chidori army. At this time, Loki was neither caught by Iron Man. There is also no link to be rescued by Hawkeye to the aerospace carrier. Instead, it directly opened the Tesseract time-space gate and summoned the Chidori army. Ivan knew that it was because of his presence. So the timeline is adjusted at any time. Ivan shook his head helplessly and looked at Ancient One flatly. I know that you use the power of darkness to protect the light and protect the earth in another way, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do this. Ancient One nodded and slowly stretched out his palm. With my power, I can personally end the life of that Titan star in advance, but it won't work. Ivan thought for a moment, and instantly understood. Because of the death of Thanos, the timeline will close other issues to destroy the planet. That's right, Ancient One nodded in agreement. Talking to Ivan is much easier than her magician conversations. The other side could understand her riddles. Could this be easy? The promotion of the timeline must end with normal events, and any change in the force of advance will make the problem more and more serious. Even if we fail the normal plot, the Earth and the universe will only disappear half of the people, but if the Titans are terminated early, the timeline will end again, and if we fail here. Speaking of which, Ancient One looked at Ivan and said slowly. Earth and the universe could face immediate destruction. In the conversation between the two, under their shadows, New York is under attack by an alien civilization. The Statue of Liberty was directly smashed. The Empire State Building was knocked down by the Chitauri behemoth. Although this fact is tragic, it seems so insignificant when the two talk about the destruction of the universe and the Earth. Hum. Ivan smiled and shook his head. The timeline that you value is only the timeline of this single universe. As long as it grows to the strength of a multi-universe, what is the threat of a single universe? Hear what Ivan has to say. Gu frowned, having fallen into incomprehension. In the final analysis, Ancient One is only level Godfather, and it has not reached the upper limit in a single universe. Currently the upper limit can be reached in the level single universe. It is Odin who wears the Destroyer, takes the Spear of Eternity, and gets the blessing of the level Godfather characters. So Ancient One couldn't understand. Reach the multi-universe level, or as long as you reach the ability after level single universe. Once you get to this level, you are invincible in this universe. Only multi-universe creatures can come against you. So what timeline is not a timeline? It doesn't matter anymore. Unless time management is very important to you, direct the multi-universe creatures to you. Multi-universe level. Ancient One muttered the word silently. She still didn't understand. Ivan smiled and looked at New York not far away. Anyway, things have happened, let's talk. With a wave of Ivan's hand, two void chairs emitting a little starlight appeared in the air. Ivan sits down. Ancient One also sat down opposite him. The multi-universe level, to put it simply, means that it has jumped out of the universe, crossed the barriers of the universe, and reached the strength of affecting parallel universes and even other universes. The Dormammu you used to compete with Holy Place is only a quasi-multi-universe level. If Dormammu is fully multi-universe level, then the Earth is long gone. How can the multi-universe level be trapped in Holy Place? Each multi-universe level can traverse the barriers between universes at will. Whatever Dormammu says, it's a quasi-multi-universe class. Ivan's remarks shocked Ancient One. She opened her eyes and looked at Ivan in surprise. After reaching the multi-universe level, the threat of the timeline ceases to exist. It's not necessary, Ivan said lightly, leaning against the sofa cushions in the void. Level single universe is about the same, but level Godfather is not. Ancient One was silent for a while, and then asked, I am level Godfather? Yes. This time Ancient One was silent for a longer time, obviously she was thinking about a lot of things. After half a sound, Ancient One asked slowly, level single universe, can really exceed the timeline? This sentence is obviously not a problem, but a repeated confirmation. Yes, Ivan replied lightly. Now Ancient One was silent again to think. I do not know how long it has been. Ancient One looked up and said, how can you reach the level single universe? Yo, now it's Ivan's turn to be surprised. He did not expect that Ancient One would change its plans so quickly. Not long ago I was thinking of stopping myself. But it didn't take long before I wanted to help myself. No way. In all timelines, the Ancient One is almost mortal. She is like a node in the timeline that must happen. Ancient One is not afraid of death. But she wasn't willing either. Protect the holy place and the earth for hundreds of years. Instead, it was a plot kill. If this is you, are you willing? Are you willing? Originally, Ancient One was willing to kill for the sake of the plot so that the earth could have a chance of life. because it is her responsibility. But now there is an accident. She saw an existence that jumped out of the timeline. If he can really do it, not only did the planet have a chance at life, but it became completely peaceful. She doesn't need to be killed by the plot either, she just needs to help Ivan guard the Earth when she leaves. Heavy conditions smashed down. Ancient One thought about it and knew what to do. The chance to beat the normal timeline is also to beat. Fighting Ivan's future is also fighting. Since both are gambling, why not bet on Ivan's more promising, more perfect, stronger future? Facing the Ancient One's problems, Ivan smiled and replied simply, "As long as my timeline is developing normally, I will be tomorrow." Didn't Ancient One watch Eye of Agamotto? She saw that Ivan would get 3 gems. Then Eye of Agamotto is ineffective. That is to say, in the normal timeline, oneself will get these 3 gems. So long as the Ancient One doesn't interfere, Ivan will definitely get it. Ancient One nodded after hearing Ivan's words. She stood up, a time-space gate with sparks appeared in front of her, and then walked in. Before the door closed, she left a sentence. "Come to me anytime." Ancient One is gone. She came and went quickly. This is the way smart people do things. Do what's right, don't do what's wrong. She doesn't have the kind of thought that since I'm here, how can I just leave in a daze? After watching Ancient One leave, Ivan got up. The 2 star-like chairs also dissipated. At this time, a figure in the distance flashed lightning and flew over quickly. It's Natasha Romanoff. After finding Ivan, Natasha Romanoff quickly flew to Ivan's side. She looked at the Tesseract portal launcher not far away. "Is that what it is?" Ivan nodded. "Since it's open, don't rush to close it. I'll go to the universe and make the Kitarui mothership." "Okay." Natasha Romanoff gave Ivan his full support without any objection. Turning it off even for a while will kill a lot of people. But the reality is that it doesn't matter. Natasha Romanoff flew forward, hugged Ivan and released it. "Then I'll rendezvous with the Alliance to clear out the Chitauri army in the city." "Go." Ivan patted her hoard. "Wood." Before leaving, Natasha Romanoff took a bite of Ivan. Then he flew towards the city. Ivan looks CEFH at the cape behind her, which is a new battle suit she's only recently put on. Unlike the previous black tight battle suit, this battle suit comes with a large black cape. Generally speaking, it is very similar to Ivan's black super battle suit before. S.H.I.E.L.D. does this specifically. This way, fans of Natasha Romanoff and others will think of Ivan before when they see it. After arriving in the city, Natasha Romanoff looked at the Zatar army roaring around. Boom, boom, several lightning bolts burst out from her hands. Then it split into 2, split into 4, and then spread out to hit the Zeta Swiss soldiers. In an instant, the dozen or so soldiers fell to the ground in convulsions. Black smoke billowed from their noses and mouths. Apparently the internal organs were electro-focalized. The rescued citizens around saw Natasha Romanoff, the Storm Woman. They all called out to roar with joy. "Nice. Fantastic Storm Girl, you are amazing. I love you, you are my life." In the crowd shouted by roar, there are all kinds of people. Natasha Romanoff waved her hand. "Go to evacuation." Then she looked at the aircraft soldier in the distance and flew away immediately. As for those pursuing Natasha Romanoff, war is too much. Not only men, but there are more than 10% of women who pursue Natasha Romanoff. When Natasha Romanoff saw the data, she was taken aback. But in the end no one cared about it. Very normal. Ivan's fans have everything. You can't decide who can like you and who can't like you. Natasha Romanoff is going to be exported by Ivan every night to die, who cares what the fans are expressing? Anyway, S.H.I.E.L.D. will have a special department to deal with it. When she comes out to perform some expressive missions, then S.H.I.E.L.D. takes pictures and videos of the fight. Immediately after, Natasha Romanoff started chasing these Zeta Swiss soldiers with flight devices. ZZZ. Boom. The powerful electric current will kill the Zetas almost as soon as they hit them. Once again, Natasha Romanoff stumbled, hit the flight device. As a result, the flight device exploded in an instant. And the soldiers above were also killed on the spot and then blown up. Finally, after clearing 100 or 200 Zeta Swiss soldiers, Natasha Romanoff meets a Chitauri beast. Bang! Natasha Romanoff fell from the sky. His feet stomped heavily on the top of the beast's head. Exclamation mark. The giant beast was stepped down and swayed, and then began to roll. Then he rammed into the surrounding buildings. But Natasha Romanoff was already immune to such an attack. She is not afraid of bullets and grenades, will she be afraid of hitting the wall? Watch the Chidori behemoths crashing around. Natasha Romanoff is one-handed. Boom! A hammer fell from the sky in her hand. This is Mjolnir, half kneeling on the head of the Chidori behemoth. Natasha Romanoff holds Mjolnir high. Boom! The terrifying power of thunder danced around her. Then Natasha Romanoff slammed the hammer. Boom! Huge amounts of thunder resounded throughout New York. And the Chidori behemoth didn't say a word. Real. It fell to the ground without saying a word. Then he plunged into the asphalt and arched for tens of meters before stopping. Clack clack. Natasha Romanoff then stepped off the top of its head. Bake. A red-yellow figure flew over. Tony stared at Natasha Romanoff, who came down from the beast's head, dumbfounded. Speaking of which, you may not be able to. I wanted to help you just now. Natasha Romanoff looked at another Chidori in the distance. Then you can go and help others now. With that, Natasha Romanoff flew away again. At this time, another man in a blue-red tights with a shield ran over. He gasped as Natasha Romanoff flew away. Then asked Tony. If she had been there when Hydra was destroyed, Hydra would have been gone. Tony smiled and made a joke. Then if Hydra is still there, it's not just one more time to destroy it. Captain America's face changed. This is a hell of a joke. Definitely kidding. Tony waved his hand. At the same time, he was certain. Captain America is someone who doesn't like to joke around and is very serious. Captain America looked at the army of Chidori around him, and it didn't come at all. He smelled a little angry. Didn't S.H.I.E.L.D. say, they know a god named Ivan? Why hasn't he come yet? Don't tell me you're stuck in traffic. Ah, Tony was completely blinded by Captain America's words. He corrected Captain America. S.H.I.E.L.D. has no right to contact Ivan directly, let alone give orders. This requires an order. Captain America frowned at Tony. Now that the world is in crisis, shouldn't he step up and help? Tony was silent for a while. Apparently his current temper and mood are a little bit off by Captain America. But because he was an ally that Fury invited in. And he's still the same age as his father. So Tony dropped a word and flew away. He's doing something bigger than us. Seeing that Tony obviously didn't care about himself and flew away. Captain America also frowned in disgust. If it's not an emergency, who wants to be teammates with you? With that said, he ran to the other side. And at the same time, in downtown New York, with the help of Beast Spirit Walker's ability, Hulk's combat performance is stronger than the movie. Its agility has improved a lot, and it has also become a lot more rational. But the strength did not weaken in the slightest, and he was riding on a Chidori giant beast and beating it violently. And Natasha Romanoff is nearby. She hovered in the air, scanning the surrounding enemies. Sudden, amongst a group of Chidori flight soldiers, she saw Loki mixed in. To be precise, the psychic scepter in Loki's hands. That's what Ivan wants. Natasha Romanoff saw at a glance the spiritual scepter Ivan needed in the army of thousands of Chidoris. She was covered in lightning. A strong blue light appeared in both eyes. Then instantly flew towards Loki. Boom! There were huge amounts of thunder in the sky. Loki, who was sitting on the flight device, shuddered with fright and had a bad feeling. He looked around, looking for the source of the threat. As soon as he turned his head, he saw Natasha, who was flying. And so did he. One glance at the Mjolnir in Natasha Romanoff's hands. Loki panicked and controlled the soldiers and flew into the distance. How could she have Mjolnir? How could that idiot Thor give him the hammer? I'm so happy. Loki scolded and ran. Every now and then, I turn my head and shoot a few times with a mental scepter. Hurry up and stop her. Focus. Attack her. When the Zeta Swiss soldier heard this, he immediately turned around the flight device and attacked Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff saw dozens or hundreds of flight machines flying towards him. And he keeps attacking himself. She knew she couldn't get rid of them just by throwing them. So Natasha Romanoff suddenly stretched and flew up. The swarms of Chidori flight devices flew up together immediately. But it was said at the beginning, Natasha Romanoff's purpose isn't to shake them off. Wait until everyone is flying upwards. Natasha Romanoff was covered in lightning, and the hammer was filled with the power of thunder, and he plunged down. The ferocious figure turned into lightning and penetrated into the army. Go away. A soft sound. Boom. Between the Chidori army, with Natasha Romanoff at the center, a grid spread out and flew away. Look from afar. It was a ball of light that suddenly exploded. Zzz. For a moment, all the Chidori army swept by the grid twitched. Black smoke billowed from their muzzles. Apparently its visceral electric focus again. Immediately after, it's like dumplings into the water. Hundreds of Chidori flight devices began to fall in one after another. Bang, 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 bang. A time. The fallen flight machine builds a hill on the road. Zeta Swiss soldiers also fell to the ground motionless. Beautiful. Citizens hiding in the room cheered roar when they saw this. Lying down with electricity all over his body, who else could have done this? That must be the electric storm from S.H.I.E.L.D. To this, Natasha Romanoff is used to it. She looked at Loki who was escaping in the distance, and immediately flew up again. How fast is the flight machine? How fast is her flight? But after just 10 seconds, Natasha Romanoff caught up with Loki again. Look at the lightning flashes all over. Natasha Romanoff getting closer and closer. Loki was trembling with fright, and shouted on the flight device with a trembling voice. Why are you chasing me? Why? Natasha Romanoff did not speak. There was no way she could tell Loki that she wanted a mind scepter. This sentence, she will not say it until the scepter is in Ivan's hands. Watching Natasha Romanoff keep chasing without speaking, the memory flashed through Loki's mind. He remembered that in Mexico, this woman stood beside Ivan intimately. Loki understood immediately. I see. Was it because the destroyer accidentally attacked Ivan? That's not what I did. The destroyer was out of control, it was Asgard, not me. As expected of the god of tricks. In just a few words, you will throw the blame on others. But that's what Natasha Romanoff cares about. Boom. The fierce thunder sounded again. Loki shuddered, raised the scepter in his hand and threatened Natasha Romanoff. We have no injustice or enmity. If you chase after me, I will attack you. Look at the scepter that Loki points to. Natasha Romanoff's eyes flashed, and he flew faster. Loki frowned. As the god of tricks, he also has the feeling of seeing through other people's intentions. Just at that moment, he could sense that Natasha Romanoff wasn't targeting him. And the scepter in his own hands. But, this scepter was lent to him by Thanos. When the matter is over, he still needs to go back. Loki watched as Natasha Romanoff got closer. He gritted his teeth and could only lift the scepter and fire at Natasha Romanoff. Boom. An energy beam is emitted. Natasha Romanoff rolled over and ducked. But the speed was a bit slower. Loki's eyes lit up when he saw this. He raised the scepter and kept attacking. Boom, 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 boom. Because of the mind gem contained in the mind scepter. This scepter won't stop attacking at all because of insufficient energy. Loki doesn't know at the moment. But he will keep attacking. And Natasha Romanoff knows it. So she can't use it. Natasha Romanoff suddenly had an idea. She stopped and looked at the hammer in her hand. In reality, when thunderstorms occur, lightning strikes. And the range shrouded in thunderclouds is the size of a city. With the help of Mjolnir myself, summoning a thundercloud shouldn't be difficult. Can you control the lightning to precisely hit the target within the field of vision? It's like a precision strike. Just try it. So Natasha Romanoff stopped. She raised the hammer. Storm. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Moment. With a thunder in the sky. A breeze was blowing in New York. The breeze grew stronger and stronger, like the day when the hatred appeared. At the same time, the otherwise clear sky began to cloud over. Boom. Countless electric charges condensed and rolled in the thundercloud, forming bolts of lightning that shuttled through the thundercloud. Boo, bang. Tony sends off a Zeta Swiss soldier with an energy cannon. He looked up to the sky. Why did it suddenly thunder? Sir, it's not the thunder, but Ms. Romanov is launching ability. What? Tony looked at the sky in disbelief in his armor. Is this a power that humans can use? Directly mobilize the forces of nature to attack. You know, the power of nature is the most terrifying. Not to mention the Earth's typhoons, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, meteorite impacts and so on. There is an eye of the storm on Jupiter. It has a diameter larger than Earth, holds 4 regions, and has been around for over 200 years. A solar flare. The flames it spews can even cover the entire planet. There is also the supernova explosion when the fixed star dies. Its blast range can destroy entire galaxies. So the power of nature is also very scary. At the moment, SHIELD agents Phil Coulson, Nick Fury, Hill all looked up at the sky above. This sudden thundercloud. They had already guessed that Natasha Romanoff made it. This big thundercloud was summoned. I don't know how the Chitauri army can resist. At the moment, even serious Hill jokes. If only I had approached Ivan at the time. Nick Fury and Phil Coulson laughed. Fury touched his head. If you don't dislike it, I can go too. When Hill heard this, he immediately looked at the director with disgust. At this time, a satellite phone suddenly rang into Fury's phone. After Nick Fury connected, instantly became angry. Why, there are so many people in New York. This is going to drop a nuclear bomb directly. We have Natasha Romanoff, the agent of Romanoff, who can take out a large part of the alien civilization soldiers by herself, and her man, that is God, that is Ivan. What? The timer is on. 3 minutes countdown. Why the? Bang. Nick Fury smashed the phone in one fell swoop. He hadn't been so angry in a long time. Hill and Phil Coulson have already heard about it. Parliament thinks about dropping a nuke. Hill asked, frowning. Yes. Nick Fury sighed, but there was nothing he could do to stop it. If the bomb was launched, Peter Parker, Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, and millions of citizens would all die. Why don't they understand that if Natasha Romanoff were to die, Ivan would have wiped the entire United States off the face of the earth? Phil Coulson frowned. Maybe we shouldn't hide Ivan's powers from them in the first place, so they might not. No, not the same. Fury at the moment sobered up. It's all greedy, insatiable people. Even if they knew about it, they might want to use this nuclear bomb to deliberately clean up the superheroes. Hill looked serious. Apparently she also realizes that this is not just a problem for the whole of New York. A nuclear bomb would destroy New York. The superhero will also be cleaned up as well. Is this the desired result above? Hill sighed. The council may have taken care of us, they won't allow an existence out of control. The superheroes are out of their grip. And Ivan and Natasha Romanoff are completely independent. They didn't allow it, so they fired a nuke for that reason. The 3 of them sighed in unison. But what Parliament didn't know was that an angry Ivan will send the whole of the United States to God. It's not impossible. You know, SHIELD already knows part of Ivan's strength. That attack, which is countless times stronger than that of Shaoshan, will appear on the White House in the next moment. And then the whole of the United States is doomed. I'm going to contact Natasha Romanoff. Hill immediately picked up the phone and disappeared. Now she can just notify Natasha Romanoff immediately. They can't reach Ivan, and Natasha Romanoff can. Best if Ivan can stop it. But if Ivan didn't know about it, then anyone can die in New York, except Natasha Romanoff. If only Natasha Romanoff had been killed by a nuclear bomb in the United States. Then the United States will disappear. And at the moment downtown New York, Natasha Romanoff is suspended in a vacuum in the heart of New York. Her eyes glowed blue. Her whole body was bathed in lightning. Mjolnir held up high, like a guide that guides lightning. The strong wind roar howls. Natasha Romanoff's cloak kept rolling behind him. Thunderclouds rolled over my head. Lightning churned inside like a brontosaurus. Loki is driving the flight machine. He looked at the sky and suddenly had a bad feeling. This thunder didn't hit me, did it? Boom. The voice just fell. A bucket of lightning struck Loki's side. Ah! Loki was startled and shuddered. He quickly looked in Natasha Romanoff's direction. As predicted, Natasha Romanoff, with thundering eyes, held Mjolnir directly at him. Loki's legs were shaking with fright. He hurriedly drove the flight device and flew around indiscriminately. He just hoped not to call himself. Otherwise, the thick lightning of this bucket will give you a shot. I am afraid that it will be incontinence if it is not the file size. However, can't beat him, but the Zetas and the Behemoth will be miserable. Boom, 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 electro-optical interlacing. Lightning kept falling from the thundercloud. The Zeta Swiss soldier who was hit was not only his internal organs, but his whole body turned to coke. Sometimes several soldiers walked together. A flash of lightning came down. All fell to the ground and turned to ashes. The power of these lightnings, even the Chidori giant beast can't bear it. Because they are the largest. Natasha Romanoff's lightning strikes them the most. Boom, roar, a bolt of lightning fell, smashing the giant beast on the head. Suddenly, the giant beast made a tragic cry and fell towards the ground. It danced with sparks all over its body. This is it. The Chidori behemoth loses the action ability. Boom. Then another flash of lightning fell. The Chidori behemoth fell to the ground without a sound. Boom. Lightning continues. Loki desperately controlled the flight device to avoid the thunder that appeared one after another. But reality is not a movie. It is impossible for him to escape peacefully in such an intensive attack. So roar. After a few bolts of lightning fell side by side in front of you. The flight device he was driving hit the lightning directly. Zzz. Loki couldn't even scream. His hair stood on end, his body twitched after the lightning, and he fell straight down. Saw Loki getting shot down. Natasha Romanoff looked around, and after confirming that the Chidori beasts were also destroyed, she immediately withdrew Thor's power and flew towards Loki. See the thunder disappear. The Zeta Swiss soldiers who were hiding in the room dared to come out. And Natasha Romanoff was already in front of Loki. Loki falls on top of a building. He fell to the ground and twitched. Obviously the subsequent paralyzing effect of the lightning continued. Saw Natasha Romanoff flying over. Loki threw the psychic scepter over in a panic. Give. To you, I. Poor Loki. So big that he can't even speak. And Natasha Romanoff can't be bothered to care so much. After she bent down to pick up the scepter, she breathed a sigh of relief. After confirming that the gems on the scepter are still there, Natasha Romanoff raised the hammer in his right hand, ready to give Loki one last bolt of lightning. Not just because of the reason he's running around. More importantly, he said about the destroyer just now. Natasha Romanoff had already guessed that, 9 times out of 10, the destroyer of Mexico was the one he brought down to trouble Ivan. Then you can't stay. Zzz. In Loki's terrified eyes, the power of lightning in Natasha Romanoff's hands gathered frantically. At this time, her agent's satellite phone also rang. Natasha Romanoff's hands, controlled by the repulsive force of the charge, pushed the phone to the ear to connect. Natasha Romanoff, there's a nuke headed toward New York. If Ivan isn't around, get out of here. You should evacuate first. Be sure to pay attention to safety. There was a nervous message from Hill. I see. Natasha Romanoff hung up the phone flatly. She glanced at Loki, then disappeared instantly and went to find Ivan. PFF'd. Seeing Natasha Romanoff leave, Loki falls to the ground. Watch the sky where the sun reappears. Loki has never felt so good on a sunny day. And an intermittent and crying words also came out of his mouth. All, never, will provoke him again. Take the psychic scepter that Ivan needs. Natasha Romanoff managed to find him on the roof of the Stark building. Give. Natasha Romanoff smiled and couldn't wait to hand Ivan the scepter as soon as she landed. That look was like a little wild cat who brought back a big fish and wanted to be rewarded. Good job. Ivan didn't take the scepter first, but touched Natasha Romanoff's head first. He was a little surprised. Unexpectedly, before he could do it himself, Natasha Romanoff grabbed the scepter in his heart. Although breaking that launcher barrier doesn't require a psychic scepter. Because I have reality gem. The energies of infinite gems all belong to the same source. So he can break the energy shield of the Tesseract launcher just by using the power of the reality gem. But well, this is not in a hurry. He also wants to go to the universe to see the big Chidori warship. After taking the mind scepter, Ivan snapped the gem with 2 fingers. Then under the watchful eye of Natasha Romanoff, Ivan returned the gemless scepter to Natasha Romanoff, then took the gem in his palm and squeezed it lightly. Kacha, accompanied by the cracking of the gem casing. Mind Gem's true appearance also slowly appeared. I found the infinite gem's character. Natasha Romanoff said, looking at the gem. It's all pretty. Ivan smiled helplessly. Then, with a wave of his hand, the gem was taken into the dark plane. Now is not the time to devour it. Wait until it's over to devour it. That's right. Natasha Romanoff suddenly remembered at this moment. Hill told me that the council sent a mushroom egg here, and counting the time, it should have been launched. Really? Ivan turned to look in the direction of the mushroom egg launch. Through his supervision and perspective can 483 force, coupled with the positioning ability of the infinite engine, he found the mushroom egg that was flying at a glance. They are so brave. With him around, he dared to launch a nuclear bomb. It's looking down on him. I still want to take him with me. Anyway, without him, the United States is also a dominant position, right? Therefore, since it cannot be controlled, it is better to destroy it. Really good calculus, Ivan, Natasha Romanoff suggested on the side. Maybe need to give them a little color to see. Yes, sometimes. I really don't know how to serve if I don't get hit. Ivan waved his hand. Locate me the nuclear bomb and the reality of Parliament. Ding, start the infinite engine of the dark plane. The time and space coordinates of the nuclear bomb have been locked. The actual address of the Parliament has been located. A 3D reality scene emerges as dark energy converges. Ivan and Natasha Romanoff could see a group of men in suits sitting around a palace, watching New York from a distance via satellite. With their technology, it is impossible to see the details of what happened. But they could see what New York looked like after the nuclear bomb went off. At the same time, their conversation was also heard in the real scene. How? Make sure those superheroes are all in downtown New York. It's confirmed, it must be right. What about the God and the Storm Agent? They are the strongest and must be dealt with first. Those two are also there, that's for sure. Since it's all right, let's celebrate the passing of these guys in advance. No problem. Who told these guys to not listen to control? Don't they know that there is no carbon-based creature that can resist the existence of nuclear? Remember, it must be said that it was launched against the expansion of alien civilizations in international issues, and the purpose is to prevent aliens from invading other countries. Yes, the United States carried them all. Yes, ha 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 ha. Hear the conversations of the crowd inside. Natasha Romanoff clenched her fists angrily. She reassured the citizens, carried out the mission, and the Chidori army arrived and cleared so many alien soldiers. As a result, the above actually used uncontrollable reasons to frame themselves. And Ivan, who can shelter the entire planet, is actually counted into it. In Natasha Romanoff's understanding, these people are completely bad to the core. Don't let them go. Natasha Romanoff looked at them in disgust. Will do. Ivan didn't say much, just replied lightly. Ding, start the infinite engine and locate the space-time channel between the two places. Location is successful, the dark plane channel has been opened. Build an energy barrier on the periphery of the Parliament Palace. Entering energy. The energy barrier has been constructed and the vibranium shield has been activated. Use the reality gem to strengthen the shield strength and strengthen it successfully. Next moment, if someone happens to be able to see it, they can find it. The nuclear bombs flew and disappeared. A door of the dark plane suddenly appeared in front of it, and then went in and disappeared. At the same time, Tony rushed over in his new armor. He hovered over the sea and looked around blindly. What about the nuclear bomb? He reached out to Nick Fury. Didn't you say a nuke? What about a nuke? Nick Fury, who was far away on the aerospace carrier, was stunned at first. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. He could guess that it was probably Ivan who did it. But Jarvis at the moment said, Sir, in the last second, I also located the nuclear bomb, but it disappeared the next second. Disappeared. Nick Fury and Tony Stark were both confused. When the nuclear bomb disappears, where will it go? The nuclear bombs that are fired can't just disappear out of thin air, right? Science says it. Objects cannot disappear out of thin air, nor can they arise out of thin air. Unless it goes to another place. That's right. Ivan didn't intend to let this nuke go to waste. Next moment, exclamation mark. A bright white light appeared from the distant sky. They couldn't hear the sound, and they couldn't feel the fluctuations. Only a white beam of light could be seen rising into the sky. That beam of light is not naturally generated, it seems that it is because the energy is prevented from spreading, and the energy gathers together before it reaches an altitude of tens of thousands of meters. This also resulted in white light beams being visible even in other states. What's wrong? Fury and Tony were both dumbfounded. What's going on here? Alien civilizations appear in other states. Jarvis quickly gave the answer. Sir, by retrieving surveillance and satellites, the Palace of Parliament suddenly exploded, and the explosion range was within a few kilometers. But it is very strange that the blast diameter is only 5 kilometers, and beyond 5 kilometers, there is a transparent barrier blocking the energy diffusion. So that's why tens of thousands of meters of light beams are formed. Preliminary judgment, this is the nuclear bomb, but I don't know why it exploded in other states. Hiss, hiss. For a split second, Tony and Fury both gasped. After half a sound, Fury came to his senses and asked Tony rhetorically, "Do you know who was in that council?" "Ah," Tony said two random words, "former president and former president." "It's all, and more than that." What Fury said next made Tony goofy. The heads of core agencies including the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Department of Defense, the Department of State are all there. It also includes key figures such as the President and the Secretary General. "Wait a minute," Tony immediately responded. "What do you mean? 90% of the core leaders of the United States are." "I think so." Fury's tone was indistinct, and he didn't know what he was thinking. For the sake of, forget it, for the sake of calculating something, they got together to vote, and they found out. Tony pouted. He could probably guess what they were calculating together. These people are for their own rights and interests. Can do almost anything. Tony knows this very well. Not long ago, the United States State Department wanted him to hand over his armor technology several times. And used a lot of means to pressure the Stark Group. Fortunately, he had already closed the weapons section. Otherwise it will really be affected. Now that's what happened to them. Tony wasn't happy, but he definitely wouldn't pity them. It's all right. At the same time, it's not just them who are dumbfounded. And Hulk, Chitauri's soldiers, Little Spider-Man, Captain America, Loki and others couldn't help looking to the sky. My goodness, definitely, it's not that they have to watch it. But the beam of light of this explosion is too high. Tens of thousands of meters in the sky. It's like an Optimus beam stuck on the Earth. In their minds, Earth at the moment is like a lollipop. Just can't touch the handle. Return to the original place. Ivan folded his hands as if he didn't do these things. Natasha Romanoff smiled as she looked at the beam of light in the distance. Her nose is straight. Tell them to kill us, these worms. All right. Ivan tapped Natasha Romanoff on the shoulder. Go and deal with the rest of the Zeta Swiss soldiers, I'll go look inside the time-space portal. Yeah, Natasha Romanoff agreed. She took the bear scepter and flew down to clean up the last soldiers. And Ivan looked up to the sky. He has a hand. A shining silver sword appeared in his hand. This is the king's life. Then, a pair of gorgeous and noble silver wings appeared behind him again. The blade that I caressed with my own hand. Ivan could feel a sensation coming up inside. Looking forward to what kind of feeling these two pieces of equipment can bring him. Open the long sword's planet projection ability. Ding, the projection ability has been opened, and now it has the original strike ability. It is good. Slowly put down the long sword. The next moment, Ivan uses flight's ability. In an instant, he flew to the vicinity of the gate of time and space. Silver Wing instantly zoomed in. It soared directly to a file size of 1 kilometer in diameter. How big is the time gate? It's just about the size of a silver wing. Swah. Next moment, the huge and beautiful silver wings began to wave. It's like a game of cutting fruit. All incoming Zeta Swiss soldiers were smoothly cut into two pieces. Even the Chitauri behemoths cut open like air. Nothing can withstand the blade of Silverwing. When all the creatures and metals touched the silver wings, they were cut as if they were separated in advance. Not only that, Ivan swings the longsword once. The huge blade projection moved directly over. Obviously it is the projection of the blade, but when moving, there is a feeling like the top of Mount High. In front of the blade. Everyone will automatically hold Roar's breath when they see it, and they don't dare to take a breath. The deterrent effect of the huge blade projection is too strong. Under the attack of Silverwing and Wang Ming, all Chitauri armies doubled directly into Earth. Why doubled? Because it was cut in half. At the feet of Ivan, that is, at the foot of the portal. The debris of flight machines, soldiers, behemoths, etc. piled up a mountain. This is a real mountain. Their bodies were piled up dozens of meters high. The surrounding shops are full, and even the roof is piled up. Hard to imagine. It's just a moment's effort. And that's the work of this moment. On the opposite side of the time-space gate, there is no Chitauri army to enter. They stopped outside the time gate and looked at Ivan on Earth. A look of fear appeared on their faces. No matter how many soldiers surround the gate of time and space, no one dares to enter. At the moment, citizens on land have seen it here. Although they can't see people clearly, they have cameras. Moreover, with a diameter of 1 kilometer, who can see such a big silver wing? Everyone took out their cameras and took pictures. And with fewer and fewer Zeta Swiss soldiers remaining, more and more citizens took to the streets to watch. And in the sky, seeing that the Zeta Swiss soldiers did not dare to enter, Ivan smiled and said lightly with Wang Ming, "Then I will come to you." Next moment, his figure instantly appeared on the opposite side of the time and space gate, that is, in the universe. Silver Wing swept around in an instant. Swa! In an instant. The Chitauri army within a kilometer of Ivan's side was directly divided into two halves. The corpse weighs force because of space. It took a while to slowly separate. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Zeta Swiss soldiers take a look. Immediately, they all controlled the flight device to escape. Ivan smiled. Activate the projection strike at maximum power. Ding, the infinite engine has been started. Current core frame rate, 70 frames. The King's Life projection strike ability has been activated. The maximum power has been output. Please hold the sword. Ivan slowly raised the long sword. Immediately, a golden giant shadow scattered from the long sword. In the universe, it is impossible to estimate the length of this golden sword shadow. But for example, Ivan's figure is probably only a small point under this golden sword shadow. The Zeta Swiss soldier looked back at Ivan. Suddenly everyone ran faster. But to no avail, because Ivan has already waved and chopped down. Immediately, this golden sword shadow was not split out of his hand. Instead, it crossed time and space and appeared directly near the fleeing Chitauri legion. When the dazzling golden sword shadow appeared, it was as if the entire universe had been cut into two sides. This huge golden sword shadow can't see the end. Swing sideways from the left to the right of the Chitauri legion. Immediately, after half a second, all passing Zeta Swiss soldiers, flight machines, and giant beasts were destroyed and exploded. The behemoth is okay, maybe only half of its body is missing. But after the Zeta Swiss soldiers were affected by the golden sword shadow, they didn't even have a body. It was directly beaten into atoms and dissipated in the universe. But more than that, the golden sword shadow cut through the Chitauri legion and did not dissipate. Immediately after, it slowly stood up again and slashed towards the Chitauri mothership. No, 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 no. Visible to the naked eye, all the Chitauri army began to retreat. Especially their cosmic flagships. Not only was the energy shield turned on frantically, but the engine behind the flagship was also about to explode. They want to attack by blocking. Then open the wormhole and jump out. But does it make a difference to Ivan if the shield is on or off? Huge amounts of golden sword shadows stand in the air. Then, with a mighty force, it slashed down with an unmatched momentum. The blow is still the same. It directly crossed time and space, making the gap between distances disappear. Obviously Ivan is so far away from them. But the golden sword shadows that were cut out did not know how many cosmic units they had crossed, and they appeared from their side and cut them off. When the golden sword shadow is cut off, the shields of the Chitauri flagship are as brittle as paper. No, not even as good as paper. When the golden sword shadow slashed and came into contact with the energy shield, there was no movement between the two. The universe does not transmit sound at all. Plus nothing happened between the two. At this moment, the wandering organization nearby watching the battle began to be dumbfounded. How is this going? Everyone can't make up their minds. This golden sword shadow is so powerful, it shouldn't be silent. Then the Chitauri flagship should be bombed to add to the fun, no matter what. When everyone is in a circle. Next moment, a vision arose. From top to bottom, the golden sword shadows cut on the shield of the Chitauri flagship that was more than 10 kilometers long. Just when you don't know what's going to happen next. The golden sword shadow fell like this without stopping. The shield doesn't seem to exist. The golden sword shadow was cut as usual as if it had not touched. What? How is this going? That shield failed. Impossible. The wandering organization spaceships and the spaceships of other civilizations are all watching. Believe it soon. News and footage of this war would spread among the civilized leaders of all universes. And even ordinary people will talk about a couple of words while eating. The golden sword shadow slashed down, cut the Chidori flagship from top to bottom without the slightest hesitation. After cutting out these two swords, Ivan put away the projection strike ability. With these two pieces, the attack of the Kitarui civilization was declared over. Wait until the golden sword shadow disappears for a few seconds. The Chidori flagship begins to explode. A series of explosions followed. Starting from the middle of the flagship, there was no sound, and all the civilizations next to it just watched the flagship begin to explode in series. Start in the middle first, then spread to both sides. But after just a minute or two, the more than 10 kilometers long Chidori flagship has exploded into the wreckage of the universe. It was burning all over. Many Zeta Swiss soldiers escaped from the mothership in flight machines. But no mothership, they don't have any supplies. Roaming the universe next to a flight machine in a small spaceship. Don't even think about it. If there is no nearby supply point or support, they will slowly die in this endless universe. Then it becomes a piece of frozen meat. What happened? A golden great sword that wiped out the Chidori fleet. My God, what the hell is going on? Reporting to the leader is a brand new attack method. Yes, at least dozens of units of golden giant swords in length. King, this civilization called Blue Star must not be provoked. They have gods, very powerful gods. And after beheading all of Chidori's fleet, as soon as Ivan released his hand, Wang Ming and Yinyi automatically returned to the dark plane. The mothership has done it with a sword. He also had no interest in chasing the small soldiers who escaped. There is no need for that. Besides, homeless organizations will not let those interests go. Soldiers took them and sold them as slaves. The wreckage is towed away to see if I can pick up something useful. It's really useless, and big organizations don't like it and throw it away. But individual homeless people value these petty profits. They would also haul the wreck home and sell it as scrap. After all, it's free money. Mosquitoes are meat no matter how small they are. These spectators are still watching how the Kitarui civilization invaded others. As a result, the last kick is ready to scrape the remaining value of the Kitarui civilization. If the mothership hadn't been beheaded by Ivan, they must not dare to do it. But now the Chidori civilization has collapsed. What else is there to dare? This is the power of the universe. Cruel and true. After putting away Wang Ming and Silver Wing, Ivan turned around and slowly flew towards the time-space gate leading to the Earth. Only left a little time for them to take pictures of their backs. After returning to Earth, Ivan looks down. Zeta Swiss soldiers all over New York have been dealt with. Only the Tesseract launcher is still activated to emit energy. But unlike the plot, Light has portals. No more Zeta Swiss soldiers. And around the entire portal. As soon as Ivan came back, he saw Natasha Romanoff waiting for him. Seeing him back, Natasha Romanoff immediately greeted him. The Zeta Swiss soldiers were all shut down just now. Is it because of the universe? Ivan nodded. I destroyed the flagship of the Chidori civilization, which is now being decomposed on the spot by major organizations. It's so miserable. Natasha Romanoff said it was miserable. But there was a smile on his face. You actually called the invasion of civilization miserable. The 2 gems are about to arrive, and Ivan is in a very good mood. I will punish you severely at night. Then they are really miserable. Hearing that she was about to be punished, Natasha Romanoff said stiffly with her legs slightly folded together. Look, they swore to invade, thinking that it would be easy for cosmic civilization to invade an Earth civilization, but they didn't expect to meet you. I took a look near the portal just now. Those 2 golden sword slashes are really cool. Looking at Natasha Romanoff is a bit of a nympho. Can you say that Ivan is in a bad mood? It is estimated that no one can imagine. Super Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., the rising stars of the United States society. The super goddess in everyone's mind. As a result, I became a nympho in front of Ivan. Think of Natasha Romanoff's valiant and cool performance in battles on social accounts and online. Look at how she looks now. The contrast is too much. Excessive content. But this contrast can only be seen by Ivan alone. Let's go. Ivan stepped forward and patted Dune, who was afraid of her. Let me introduce you to the space gem. Next moment, the two came to the side of the Tesseract launcher. Natasha Romanoff reached out and poked at the energy shield on the launcher. How is this going to be broken? Originally, only a mental scepter was needed, Ivan said with a smile. Ha! Natasha Romanoff froze, looking at Ivan. The eyes seemed to be talking. Didn't you remove the scepter's gem? What's next? Seeing her suddenly cute look, Ivan smiled and stopped teasing her. Rest assured, Ivan stretched out his hand, and red energy gathered in his hand. All gems belong to the same energy source. So no matter what the gems are, the energy they emit can destroy the energy shields they inspire. Natasha Romanoff watched Ivan's hand carefully. That is there no other way to break these energy shields other than other infinite gems? Definitely not. Ivan knew what Natasha Romanoff meant. She wondered if this shield was invincible. So Ivan explained, the energy shield is the gem's own defense mechanism, which can only be converted in another way after use. So it's no longer possible to use the energy barrier directly from infinite gems. If only users of all gems could use this shield indefinitely again. Then the universe will become the owner of the gem and the owner of the gem. No one else can break the defense of the energy shield. Natasha Romanoff nodded understandingly. Immediately after, Ivan's hand wrapped in infinite energy slowly touched the energy shield emitted by Tesseract. In Natasha Romanoff's surprised eyes, his hand went deep into the shield as calmly as if it was reaching into the water. There was only a slight commotion, but Natasha Romanoff clearly remembered what it was like when she touched it just now. Natasha Romanoff is a little unbeliever. She stretched out her fingers, and slowly moved a little closer to the shield. Really, a strong resistance blocked her progress. Except for the same energy source, other things cannot enter this energy shield at all. Natasha Romanoff sighed. Can only watch what Ivan does next. But the next control is actually very simple. Reach in. Touch the Tesseract, then cut out. Appeared with a screeching sound. After Tesseract was directly deducted by Ivan's powerful divine power. The energy shield of the launcher also disappears on the spot. It also no longer emits a bit of energy. So in the eyes of all, the portal over New York slowly shrank until it disappeared. Quote, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, quote. Nice. Awesome. Everyone likes roar. In their understanding, without the portal, it means that the soldiers on the opposite side cannot enter. It's safe for them, but what they don't know is, in fact, it doesn't matter if the door is closed or not. Anyway, the Chitauri army was wiped out by Ivan. With this gate, it is easier to do space experiments. But it depends on whether Ivan is willing or not. Definitely, the answers don't have to be revealed. With Ivan out of the Tesseract, the transmitter really becomes an ordinary instrument. Ivan squeezed lightly. Gotcha. The Tesseract shattered on the spot. Ivan rubbed in the palm of his hand. Immediately, the fragments of Tesseract turned into powder and dissipated from the fingers. And wait until Ivan spreads his palm again. Here comes the Tesseract ontology, the space gem of the 6 infinite gems. Such a blue gem was held in the palm of Ivan's hand. Natasha Romanoff leaned forward and said curiously, "It's the best-looking gem in my opinion." Well, Ivan thought for a while, really. The blue space gem is indeed the best-looking one. Other purples, greens, and yellows are not as good-looking as this blue. This is a fact. This is. Natasha Romanoff's satellite phone rings. After she was connected, she took the initiative to lean against Ivan. Natasha Romanoff, how is it? Are you safe? Hearing Hill's caring answer, Natasha Romanoff couldn't help but smile. When I was only a level 9 agent, I didn't care much about myself in the bureau. I'm fine, nothing is wrong. Thank God. Hill breathed a sigh of relief. It's fine, we'll take care of the rest, just go and rest. At this time, there was a Fury's voice next to it. Ah, if Ivan is by your side, please help me to say sorry, although the Rubik's Cube is indeed hidden from you, but we have no ill intentions. I believe that the Rubik's Cube is better kept in Ivan's hands. If he finds it, take it, we will go and put pressure on it. Now 90% of the top core members of the United States are gone. The power of the shield was suddenly inconceivable. So that's how Fury dares to say so confidently that he can put pressure on it. To know, now SHIELD's combat power has not weakened in the slightest. And everyone's superhero is still here. The shield was originally a separate part of the government organization. As a result, this has been greatly weakened in other sectors. The power of the shield in the United States will be much greater. This is also the reason Ancient One says the timeline will be chaotic in the future. Because the shield had gained so much power, the Civil War of Captain America 3 couldn't have happened. Unless it erupts in another way, such as infighting, disagreement. But not because of external pressure. No problem, Natasha Romanoff replied, I'll talk to Ivan. After saying this, Natasha Romanoff raised his head and winked at Ivan. Because she knows, since this happened today, either the shield or the politicians above will know. Who is the boss? Who has the right to speak? Is it shield? No. The top politicians? Neither. Is it superhero? Not even more. Who is that? Definitely someone at the moment. Natasha Romanoff leans on. Thank you. Hill breathed a sigh of relief. I'll go to work first, there are a lot of things to deal with in New York. Romanov agent. Nick Fury also said, from now on, you have 7 days off. After speaking, the big guy hung up the phone. Natasha Romanoff put away the satellite phone and stretched a lot. Under the rays of the setting sun, the curves of the fierce waist are clear. She turned around and waved at Ivan. I won't have a holiday. Now that the war has just ended, it's time for me to consolidate people's hearts. Waiting for my good news, our fans will skyrocket tonight. Go. Ivan waved at her too. Natasha Romanoff nodded, turned and flew away toward downtown New York. And what about Ivan? He has more important things to do. That is to devour these 2 infinite gems. At that time, the engine frame rate improvement and ability improvement brought by these 2 gems must be huge amounts of. What ability can I get? I'm looking forward to it. In the next time, S.H.I.E.L.D. is busy dealing with the funeral and trying to fight for its rights and status in the United States. The superhero also sneaked in to eat Mexican grilled meat. In a barbecue restaurant that was not seriously affected. Although there is some dust and gravel around. But a group of superheroes still came here. But it's different from the plot. Hawkeye only woke up after Ivan deducted the mind gem, during which time he killed many of his colleagues. So at the moment, my mentality was a little broken, and I was depressed in the bureau. It wasn't just Hawkeye who was absent. And Natasha Romanoff and Thor. Natasha Romanoff is busy with her own business. Thor because of Loki's escape, so at the moment is still in Asgard to pacify the 9 realms. He didn't know where Loki had gone. I only knew that he had slipped away, so I didn't look for it. But absent is absent, and a few new people have been added. Like little Spider-Man, he entered the superhero ranks early. Peter Parker shined in Iron Man and the Abomination, and Tony had long recognized him as a man who could stand on his own. In superhero in all leagues, it was Tony who had the best relationship with little Spider-Man. So this time, according to the original plot, 3 people were absent and 1 was added. Present: Tony Stark, Iron Man, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Steve Rogers, Captain America, Bruce Banner, Hulk. The original Avengers generation went from 6 to 4. Definitely, wait until Hawkeye Barton gets his mentality back, it might turn into 5. But then it was also the 2nd generation, not the 1st. Peter Parker's hood has been removed. He grabbed the barbecue and stuffed it into his mouth. The contribution of everyone in this battle is actually not big, but at least they are exhausted. Especially Peter Parker. See New York being invaded by an alien civilization. Peter Parker tried almost 120 to stop them. There are many holes left by his 8 spears in the walls of the building. There are also many cobwebs left on many streets. That's the proof that he tried his best. Stop choking, Tony said to Parker, placing a bottle of water in front of him. Then open your mouth as wide as possible and shove a whole piece of meat roll in 1 bite. After filling the whole mouth, Tony ate contentedly. Wouldn't that be tougher than what Peter Parker ate? Captain America is also eating a meatloaf, but he is still very groomed and feels pretentious. Then there is the Banner. He's the most normal-looking eater of all. One bite after another. Take another bite when you're done. Not like Peter Parker and Tony Stark. The two of them hurriedly stuffed a little more before they could swallow it. Goo. Peter Parker took several gulps of water. He looked at Banner curiously. When I saw your transformation at school, you were able to change back just now. No problem. Banner smiled embarrassedly. At that time, I didn't have any training, but with Ivan's help, I gradually took control of Hulk. It's Ivan again. Captain America looked at the people. I heard that you all received help from Ivan. The three looked at each other and nodded. Captain America nodded and continued eating the meatloaf, but what was in his eyes and in his mind? Tony was eating meatloaf. At this moment, he frowned at the tattered hole in the little spider battlesuit. Your battlesuit is a little too out of date. Little Spider-Man nodded, then shook his head again. He swallowed the barbecue in his mouth. There is no other material that can be replaced. The defensive material is too hard and will affect my actions. Materials that are too soft have average defense, so that's it. Luo. No. Tony shook his head. I'll help you find better materials, or you'll be too easily injured in the future. Really? Peter Parker looked at Tony in surprise. He knew that Tony was a great inventor, a great scientist. If he finds battlesuit materials or even provides technology for himself, he can definitely upgrade battlesuit. But, why are you being so nice to me? Tony choked on the question a few times while eating the barbecue. He looked at Peter Parker speechlessly. You helped me with the T-Bawang thing before, and I haven't repaid you. Besides, you are so young, as an elder I should help you. Peter Parker's mouth twitched when he heard the word, elder. Obviously a colleague. Then apart from the materials, can I help you upgrade your battle suit? Count your elders for a while. Quote. Captain America looked at the two who were on good terms. He couldn't believe it. In his cognition, Tony should be a selfish person and a selfish person. But how could he use his armor's technology to help Spider-Man upgrade battle suit now? This is a little bit wrong. Cough. Captain America coughed twice, waiting until Tony and Parker turned their heads. He looked at the slit in his sleeve and said, the fabric is really too fragile. Luo. What he meant, even the banner can be seen. Tony frowned in thought. Captain America thought he was going to say yes. Result. Tony suddenly became enlightened, and immediately turned his head and said to little Spider-Man. Right, we can develop a flexible metal so we can have both. Yeah, little Spider-Man got it too. Crazy. Actually, how could Tony not know what Steve meant? But from the beginning of the war, those few words he said began. Tony didn't want to get too involved with this kind of person. As long as he thinks it should be. This is so dignified. Tony honestly doesn't like this kind of person. Besides, he had ordered Ivan before. Should people listen to you? Whose hands and feet are their own? What does it have to do with you whether you want to do it or don't want to do it? How can you order others? It doesn't matter if you are the officer. But what ability do you have compared to Ivan? With keys, 3 yuan a piece, 10 3 yuan pieces. Are you fit? How many do you have? While they gather to eat barbecue, Ivan has returned to Angel's Palace to devour the remaining 2 infinite gems. In a breezy backyard, Ivan has both hands. The space gem and mind gem appeared in his hands at the same time. A brilliant blue light glows from the left. The right side exudes a charming yellow light. The infinite gems on the left can master the power of space when possessed. It allows the user to instantly reach any position, move objects or rearrange the spatial sequence, and the highest efficiency can be achieved everywhere. Even the creation of new spaces, which originally contained endless energy. The infinite gems on the right, when possessed, increase the mind ability and gain access to all other minds in existence. It allows all the dreams, thoughts and ideas of the user to enter the user's brain, so at the highest efficiency, the user will have the effect of changing the other's mind according to the user's wishes even after a light touch. At the same time, the Mind Stone originally contained huge amounts of energy. The ability of 2 gems naturally doesn't need to say more. The amount of power of a single gem can surpass that of level Godfather. In terms of Ivan's current strength, as long as he devours these 2 gems, his strength is at least level single universe. By then, hanging and beating Thanos was simply too easy. He can hang Odin. Swallow it, Ivan said lightly. He shook his hand. 2 gems appeared in his dark plane at the same time. Following his command, the gem instantly flew towards the surface of the black hole where the infinite engine started. It's like a stone falling gently into the water. The 2 infinite gems disappeared into the engine without making a fuss. Ding! Start the infinite engine, capture the infinite gems. Successful capture, swallowing, devouring, for a moment. In reality, Ivan's body slowly lifted off the ground. At the same time, a yellow light began to swim around him. The blue light is amazing. Every time it swam around Ivan's body is a little more transparent, and also exudes an illusory power. This kind of power allows you to see the fake and the real and the fake. He was clearly there, but you always feel that there is nothing ahead. And there are also many translucent swirls appearing beside Ivan. Each vortex is big or small. The big one has a fist file size. Small only has a fingernail file size. But no doubt, these vortexes exude the breath of time and space. At the same time, Ivan's body also slowly turned towards a translucent state. Seen from a distance, the space-time around him is still distorted. It is like the prism of space-time and cannot see the body. This is the ability of the space gem. Then there's mind gem. The yellow light it emits is also very magical. However, the location where it radiates is inside of Ivan. Like a soul, star-like spots of light began to appear in Ivan's translucent body. These points of light sparkled, connecting all of Ivan's bodies. But that's not what matters. It's Ivan's brain, or rather, mind. In Ivan's translucent body, his brain is exuding the energy of mind gem. These energies are sublimating Ivan's mind. It's not the same as other people getting gems. If ordinary people got gems, they wouldn't have these changes at all. They can only use gems with ready-made abilities. So how much power you can use gems depends on your ability. For example, the power gem looks at the physical fitness of the user. Then mind gem is the mind of the user who sees it. Not so with Ivan. He is devouring gems, totally devoured. After these gems are swallowed by him, he will have nearly 100% usage efficiency. This is equivalent to, he was born with the ability of gems. Or rather, these gems were made for him. These 2 forces merged within Ivan's body. I do not know how long it has been. Wait until the space vortex slowly dissipates. Wait until the body gradually returns to reality. Wait until the soul is gradually sublimated. Ivan opened his eyes. A golden light was fleeting. At the moment, he felt that the world was so clear. His thinking, space, thoughts, and ideas seemed to have jumped out of the real world. He is looking down at all beings from the perspective of God. This feeling is amazing. Ivan looked at his arm. He really felt like he had several kinds of sensations. It can be seen from the eyes, can also be sensed from the heart, and can be seen directly from the space. At this time, the engine also sent a prompt. Ding! 2 infinite gems are swallowed up. Unlimited engine core operation frame rate, 170 frames. 2 new abilities and a new template have been unlocked, please accept them. Ivan closed his eyes, feeling his own ability. After a while, he opened his eyes again in surprise. 2 new abilities were what he expected. But the new template is really unexpected. Look at ability first. New ability. Infinite gems space has been added. New ability. Infinite gems mind has been added. Infinite gems space. You can arbitrarily distort or reorder the space according to your own will, or even create a new space. Therefore, abilities such as space teleportation and space stillness are as simple as Mo Qian Jiao roar suction in front of you. Infinite gems. It not only enhances your spiritual power, but also uses reading, manipulation, modification, creation on the target, and even guards the current spirit and mind, and can control all existences with minds. As predicted, after swallowing these 2 gems, Ivan has all the abilities of these 2 gems. Whether it is space or mind, he can completely control it. Like now, Ivan stepped out. The next moment, he came to the moon. After using the space gem, his dark plane technology and many abilities reinforce each other. It was easy for him to go from the Earth to the moon in such a step. He looked up at the endless starry sky and the Earth. Ivan took it one step further. He went back to the backyard of Angel's palace. After trying the power of space, Ivan began to try the power of mind. At the moment a butterfly flew by slowly. Ivan stretched out his fingers. The butterfly flew to his finger and stopped. Look at the butterflies. Ivan's eyes flashed. The next moment, the butterfly has not changed, but its interior is very different. Ivan spread his palms. At the same time he thought. The butterfly jumped back and forth regularly on his fingers. It's like playing a beautiful piano piece. After playing for a while, Ivan thought about it and waved his hand gently. Immediately the butterfly flew away. Just now is to use the power of the mind. Ivan is very satisfied. At the moment, his combat power has reached level single universe. Even if he went to Norway now and slapped the time-space prison where Hela was imprisoned, Odin wouldn't say anything when he saw him. But that's all for later. Ivan consciousness enters the system. He also has to see what the new template given by the system is. Template infinite God body not collected. After collecting the Trinity and the 6 infinite gems, you can integrate and evolve into a higher dimensional God body. Now collected. Trinity, Space Gem, Mind Gem, Reality Gem. Missing. Power Gem, Soul Gem, Time Gem. After seeing the introduction of ability, Ivan couldn't help being a little surprised. Infinite God. According to the introduction, once this divine body is achieved, it can directly reach the top level of the ordinary multi-universe level, that is, directly reach the top level of the multi-universe level. It is a combination of the Trinity and the 6 infinite gems. That's why it has so much power. Top multi-universe class. Ivan muttered. His current strength is probably level single universe. It's easy to grasp Odin in his heyday. Not to mention Odin, who is now regressed in strength and has no equipment. Simply blown away. With his current strength, he can already take action against some relatively weak gods. The strength of many Tenjin groups also happens to be level single universe. And the god group can be said to be full of treasures. Energy in their bodies, armor on them. These are all things the infinite engine wants most. In the universe, some of the scattered corpses of the gods have been mined by many civilizations year after year and have not been mined. That alone shows their value. So, hunting the Tenjin group. It is a good plan with both risks and benefits. Next. When S.H.I.E.L.D., Superhero, and the big guys are busy, Ivan stepped out, immediately came to the Norwegian waters. Look at the endless sea in front of you. Ivan stretched out his hand and slowly tapped it in the air. A blue wave was created in the air. The ripples it sparked spread around. These space-time waves rolled bigger and bigger, until the space-time in front of them began to shake violently. Ping, kacha, accompanied by a crisp sound. The time and space on the sea actually shattered. Then the cracks that shattered grew bigger and bigger, until the whole sky was cracked. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. This time and space prison can no longer withstand the beating of the time and space waves. It shattered directly in the air. It couldn't even take Ivan's finger. This also shows how much Ivan's strength has improved. A month ago, he has to use system privileges to go in. A month later, he can break through the time-space prison created in Odin's heyday with a single finger. And after the prison shattered, Hela will definitely come out too. Appears with a wave of light. Eye-popping, Hela flew out with some books and a tablet. After landing, Hela looked at Ivan, her eyes full of joy and impatience. But the thought of what he had given him was gone. Suddenly Hela glared at Ivan. It's all gone. Ivan's mouth twitched. What do you, the Archduke of Asgard, have? Those things are not what you want. Ivan shook his head helplessly. You are free now, but Odin is still here. You need to be careful not to be locked up again. The hatred I've put down. Hela shook her head. Now I just want to earn this breath. You still want to come back. CEFH. At this time. Boom. A rainbow beam of light shot behind the two of them. Ivan turned away. Odin was wearing armor and thinking about coming down with the spear of eternity in his hand. Roll. Ivan said a word lightly. Immediately. Chong. The rainbow channel collapsed directly. The Odin being teleported was directly sucked away by the shattered space-time turbulence. If he is prepared, it is estimated that he can escape. But he didn't expect it either. In the tunnel he can be beaten and fly out. So Odin was unsuspectingly sucked into the warm space-time current. As for where he will appear, it depends on luck. If you are unlucky, it is not impossible to teleport directly to a god group. Watching his father Odin get kicked away by Ivan, Hela immediately revealed Shaorong. She held the tablet that Ivan had left for her. Next, I'll go around the 9 realms to see if Odin's methods are right or wrong over the years. Go ahead. Ivan nodded. Hela must have an idea of her own. Now that she has been able to change her mental state. From the crazy before to the normal point now. That's a good thing. There was no need for her to destroy Asgard after all. Because now Thor is different in the plot. After his return to Asgard, with confidence and ability gradually Odin passed the power to him. There is no way. Thor is getting stronger now. Loki disappeared again. Not to mention Hela. Unless Odin wants someone else to take the throne, he can only choose Thor. And Thor once ascended, then Asgard clings to Ivan with little effort. Next, Hela didn't say much. She took the tablet Ivan gave him, hugged Ivan and left. Ivan initially wanted to sell her 3 magic engines. But it goes without saying that everyone knew it then. With Hela's pride and confidence, she wasn't going to want these magic engines right away. She wants to solve the problems in her heart for more than 2,000 years. To accept the magical engine that Ivan gave her. Late at night, Natasha Romanoff is back. She came to the backyard, and when she saw Ivan lying on the recliner, she jumped on it. Fortunately, Ivan's physical fitness is strong. And Angel's furniture is of good quality. Otherwise, if she fluttered like her, the normal chair would be broken directly. Success, Natasha Romanoff said happily, wrapping her arms around Ivan's neck. Now all the citizens know that you ended the Chitauri civilization. You are the one who blocks the time-space portal in the sky and waving huge silver wings. It's you who rushed out of the space-time portal and directly smashed the Chitauri flagship. Those photos and videos Shield are ready to be posted online. Now everyone finally understands who saved them. In fact, Natasha Romanoff's video is also very popular. Her photos and videos of Thor's majesty have made many people's blood boil. That thunderous appearance. Let Natasha Romanoff get the title of Thor. It is estimated that Thor will be depressed when he finds out. But, under the backs and figures of Ivan, Natasha Romanoff's brilliance was also eclipsed. When the silver wings with a diameter of 1 or 2 kilometers are waving in the sky. Many citizens saw it. There is also the back of him rushing out of the portal and entering the enemy's interior. Photographed by many people will always remember. Watching Natasha Romanoff look even more excited than himself. Ivan smiled and rubbed her head. It doesn't matter, as long as you're happy. At Ivan's current strength, it is no longer necessary to support the Earth. To be clear, it's all the same. Wrapped around Natasha Romanoff's slender waist. Ivan looked at the stars in the sky and said, on this side of the Earth, it is enough to have you. I will only appear in the future unless there is a major event, or something you can't handle. The rest of the time I go to the universe to find the remaining infinite gems. Go to the universe. Natasha Romanoff raised her head in fright when she heard this sentence. When will you be back? Ivan was taken aback. Then I realized that Natasha Romanoff was thinking of him. And in her consciousness, going to the universe will take a long time to come back. It will take a long time for the two to meet. But this is also for ordinary people. Not so with Ivan. Ivan scratched her with a smile. I don't need to go when I want, I can go back if I want, and I still live on Earth. He has the space gem. And it is still full, using the space gem most efficiently. Then he can reach other civilizations in the universe in an instant. You can also come back in an instant. The frame rate of his engine operation is 170 FPS. Plus the dark plane technology and the space gem's ability. Where can he not go to the main plane of this universe? Just a thought. That's great. Natasha Romanoff let out a breath, and fell on Ivan's chest. She thought it was after a war. Ivan is going to the universe. A lot of ideas popped up in her mind just now. Is to follow Ivan desperately. Still listening to Ivan and staying on Earth. Fortunately, she doesn't have to make such a choice now. Next, before leaving, Ivan also went to Ancient One. Under a peak in the Himalayas. The Ancient One lives in seclusion here. As soon as Ivan appeared on the top of the Himalayas, the Ancient One came out of the spark portal right after. She looked at the new Ivan, and suddenly realized. Looks like you've succeeded. Ivan nodded. The timeline can't stop my decision. Hearing this sentence, Ancient One finally laughed. In other words, she can also live out her own plot. There is no need to be killed by the so-called plot in the future. Ancient One turned his head, looked at the place where the Eye of Agamotto was kept and said. When you're still short of the last gem, you can pick it up anytime. With Ivan, and the superheroes that Ivan has mentored, the danger of the Earth is over. Then there is no need for her to keep gems to protect the Earth. So it's better to take the initiative to hand it to Ivan when the time comes. Ivan nodded, yes. He wasn't in a hurry to get the gem either. Of the 6 gems, he already has 3. There are still power gems and soul gems waiting for him in the universe now. And this time gem from Ancient One. It was almost booked for him. Then next, Ivan already has the goal of going to the universe. That was an abandoned planet in Morag. That's where Star-Lord found the cosmic orb. How big is the universe? So big that in human consciousness, the observable universe is a distant dream. But in the eyes of Ivan who has the space gem, it's just a step away. After talking to Ancient One that day, Ivan took one step, and the figure disappeared in the galaxy in an instant. Correct, not the Earth, not the solar system, but the Milky Way. Not only that, his figure teleported quickly under the calculation of the infinite engine. Its speed is countless times faster than any spaceship jumping wormhole. Next moment, his figure appeared on a dim, broken planet. This is the Morag star. An abandoned planet. After teleporting here, Ivan's brows furrowed, because he just activated the infinite engine, and directly hunted down all the dark energy in the entire planet. But said after analysis, the cosmic sphere is no longer in the instrument with the cosmic sphere. His figure flashed directly into the secret room. Sure enough, in the middle of the 2 stone platforms, the cosmic spirit ball was gone. Seeing this, Ivan knew who did it. Guardians of Galaxy. The cosmic timeline has been unable to stop Ivan with external force. So it pushes other plots to change direction to stop it. Otherwise follow the timeline. Guardians of Galaxy won't be born for at least a year. At this time, through dark energy detection, Ivan gapped to a spaceship that came nearby. His figure flashed. The next moment appeared inside the spacecraft. Ivan glanced around, when he saw a blue-skinned person with a red Ultraman above his head. He knew whose ship it was. That Quill. Give me a bounty to catch him. How dare you gobble up the goods without permission, and eat him when you catch him. Eat. Yondu walked in a hurry with his subordinates. Obviously, he was very angry at Star-Lord's behavior of stealing the goods in advance. Courage. When Yondu heard someone calling him, he turned around immediately. The result turned back. He just saw a man who he thought was the most beautiful and handsome in his life, flying in the air and looking at him. Yongdu frowned. Suddenly a man appeared in his spaceship. This man can still fly. And it appeared silently. He didn't dare to act rashly. Just frantically searching for an impression of Ivan in my head. But his mindless subordinates didn't think so. Intruder. Caught him. An unshaven man raised his weapon high and shouted for his brothers to come on. Brothers are basically brainless people. As soon as I heard someone shouting, I immediately went up. Just as the lead wants to charge. Shish, stop. Accompanied by a slogan. A flashing red arrow stopped in front of them and aimed at them. Yondu's subordinates looked at Yondu in disbelief. They couldn't believe that Yondu had pointed this whistle arrow at them. Yondu, we fought for you so many times, how dare you do this to us? His subordinates glared at Yondu. But Yondu can't handle that. He aimed the arrow at the back of his men. Yondu smiled and showed his teeth, rubbed his hands humbly and looked at Ivan. Is there anything we can do to help you, God? Ivan looked at Yondu and was a little curious. You know me. That must be dropped. Yondu straightened his back, looked back at his subordinates and muttered. Not long ago, the Kitarui civilization attacked the Earth in a big way. Many civilizations went to watch that war, and just when they thought the Earth was about to end, a god smashed out of the universe. He had a pair of huge amounts of silver wings, and he could cut out golden sword shadows dozens of kilometers long, and the Kitarui civilization collapsed on the spot. I see. Listen to what Yongdu has to say. His men understood. PFF'd. Pat. Suddenly, the weapons were thrown under their feet one after another. After knowing Ivan's record, they don't even have the courage to take up arms. Definitely throw all the weapons away. Seeing their appearance, Ivan shook his head helplessly. But still said lightly, "Where is the Star Lord?" Queer. When Yongdu heard this, he was a little nervous. What is this god looking for Quill to do? But he still pretended to be angry. He took our goods and ran away. Now he must go to another civilization to sell. But I don't know which civilization he went to. What Yongdu said was true. But it also hides a lot of things. For example, he knew the Nova Empire where Star-Lord went. But he didn't know what purpose Ivan had for Star-Lord, so he didn't say it. Ivan also understood what his old father was doing. All he needs to know is that. Next moment, Ivan didn't talk nonsense anymore, he stepped forward and the figure disappeared. After seeing Ivan go, Yondu's subordinates, "You look at me, and I look at you." Suddenly there was a violent cheer. "I saw God with my own eyes." "You can't, I was the closest to me just now, I can blow this thing for a lifetime." People love roar. Although Yongdu was also grinning, he was still a little worried. Because Ivan was able to get here and asked where Star-Lord was. That means that he also needs the Universe Spirit Ball. Now Yongdu only hopes that Star-Lord can be honest and give up the Cosmic Spirit Ball. With Star-Lord's ability, it is 1000% unable to face Ivan. Next moment, Ivan appeared in another galaxy. In front of him is the capital of the Nova Empire. Cheta Star. Technology is very advanced here. About at least 1,000 years ahead of Earth. In the plot, after Star-Lord took the Cosmic Spirit Ball, he found an intermediary here to prepare to sell the Cosmic Spirit Ball. But the intermediary abandoned the deal after learning about Ronan the Punisher. At the same time, Rocket Raccoon, Tree Groot, and Thanos' daughter Gamora will all come here. Ivan captures all dark energy analysis of this planet. Turn out, people are indeed there, but it has already begun to be taken away. Including Groot, Rocket, Gamora, Star-Lord. All were transported by a spaceship to Qian High Security Prison. Ivan is suspended at an altitude of 10,000 meters on the planet Kaida. The story of Guardians of Galaxy just sped up, but not affected. This way, Ivan can detect these changes. But yes, he personally changed many plots on Earth. But nothing has changed in the universe. So the timeline is over. It can only speed up the process. If so, Ivan touched his chin with his index finger. I'll just wait for them at the node. Well known. The timeline will come to an end, but it will not change the plot. Unless someone manually intervenes, like Ivan. But the current Guardians of Galaxy Ivan didn't interfere. So as long as he waits at the necessary node, then Star-Lord and others will definitely reach that place. Because the timeline cannot change the plot in person. Thought here, Ivan nodded. As for where to go, needless to say. After the Star-Lords escaped from the prison, they would immediately sell them to the Collector of the Universe. Ivan stepped forward. Next moment, he came to the realm of ignorance. Knowing no territory has only been occupied for hundreds of years. It was Diffin Group who discovered it hundreds of years ago and sent people to collect various resources. Ivan took a look around the outskirts of Knowing No territory. This is most likely the head of a cosmic behemoth or a god group. But if it is the head of the god group, the other god groups should take it back. Why stay here? Next moment, the figure of Ivan appeared in the interior of Ziwu territory. The landscape here is chaotic. The whole is dim, backward and corrupt. But it is here that countless precious material resources are mined every year. 0. And it has been mined here for hundreds of years. It hasn't been mined yet. Slap. Ivan snapped his fingers. Immediately, his figure and presence disappeared from the real world. This is his combination of dark plane technology plus space gem plus reality gem. Walking in the dark streets of nowhere. Everything is here. Selling weapons, selling mining equipment, recycling items, opening restaurants. There are also pimps and meat sellers, people who post commissions to do tasks, and so on. Finally, Ivan walked to his final destination. Collector's Museum. From the outside, it looks like a small door. But Ivan pushed open the door and walked in. It's really a huge museum. And the collector of at the moment is wearing a coat, looking down on the table and looking at something. His maid was mopping the dust. Hear the door open. Collector looked up and looked towards the door. His door is not an ordinary door either. If there is no value in those who approach, then the gate will not be found, or ignored. It's as if it's in sight, but the existence is gone. But the door opened. That means something that has value comes in. But now, Collector frowned. He looked around, thought about it, and asked tentatively. Guessed. His maid looked left and right when she heard the sound, but didn't find anyone. Owner. The red-skinned maid was puzzled. The next moment. Your collection is quite interesting. The collector and the slave girl turned sharply. It turned out that Ivan had been standing by a row of glass cases behind them for a while. Ivan is in a clear glass case. All of them are all kinds of exotic metals or materials. They come in different shapes and colors. Some look disgusting. But some are still pretty. The slave girl looked at the person who suddenly appeared and wanted to scold him immediately. But after seeing Ivan's profile, she was stunned. In all fairness, she had never seen such a beautiful person in her life, whether in reality or in her dreams. And Collector at the moment didn't even blame the slave girl. Instead, he looked at Ivan with a smile on his face. It turned out to be the god of the Milky Way. Chapter 91. All right. For the time of day the whole universe knows itself. Ivan is getting used to it now too. Small places don't know if it's normal now. But like Collector, for him, who had information in all directions, it was a sin not to know that. After all, if you want to collect things, you need to know more. After seeing the person coming as Ivan, Collector also gives enough respect. He pulled up the chair himself and asked Ivan to sit down. Then there is the tribute of eating and drinking. But Ivan is not very interested in these. He's still interested in the Collector stuff. After all, it was something he had never seen before. The Collector realized when he saw Ivan's vision. I quickly took Ivan to visit. His museum is huge. It looks like a small house from the outside. But once inside, it's like entering a world. This is the animal of the Nada civilization, almost extinct. This is the last one. It's Zyba metal, useless, but good looking. This is. Along the way, Collector introduced his treasures one by one. Ivan found, among his latest collections, animals are the most. Not only animals, but also many human-like creatures. Seeing this, Ivan understood. It seems that you need to collect more points. There is only one word, the probability is only 50%. Collector's age is very big. He and Gao Tianzun are figures of the same period. So knowing Thanos' plan is normal. They are all neutral characters. The Collector opened his eyes when he heard Ivan's words, and then responded calmly. With the gods around, I feel that Thanos' plan should be difficult. Done. He looked at Ivan with some excitement. I know the purpose of the Chitauri attack. They want the Tesseract, but they fail. The meaning of Collector is clear. They failed. The Tesseract also fell into Ivan's hands. Ivan smiled and shook his head. Just the Tesseract. Collector's eyes widened. He looked at Ivan in disbelief. No one in the universe has ever owned 2 infinite gems at the same time. Only 2. Ivan shook his head helplessly again. Hear this. Now Collector can't control himself anymore. He was shaking with excitement. Could it be that? Ivan spread his palms. Reality gem 1 use. Immediately, 3 stones identical to infinite gems appeared. They are reality gem, space gem, mind gem. Corresponding to red, blue, yellow. These 1-to-1 gems are identical in all details except that they lack the power of real gems. Collector stared at the boss. With a trembling open palm, he stretched forward to catch the infinite gems. Ivan flipped with one hand. Immediately, all 3 gems fell into his hands. Collector shuddered. He raised his head and glanced at Ivan in disbelief. Then he immediately went back to the table and took the instrument and looked at it. After some observation, he was slightly disappointed, but still relieved and thanked. It was an eye-opener that these are what infinite gems really look like. Check by instrument. He already knew that these gems were imitations. But he was also relieved. If Ivan generously handed him the gem, he didn't know if he would survive until the next day. So after knowing that the gemstone is counterfeit, he was more relaxed. And for Ivan, the news that he has several gems will definitely spread. Besides, there is no need to hide this thing. So it's better to show it directly. The Collector holds the gem like the most glamorous thing in the universe. This is the reality gem. This is the space gem. This is the mind gem. Collectors identify one by one. Then, he reacted suddenly. Have 3 infinite gems at the same time. I only reacted when I saw Collector. Ivan couldn't help but laugh. See Ivan default. The Collector immediately behaved respectfully to Ivan. Oh God, who has 3 gems at the same time, please accept my admiration. Get up. Ivan waved his hand, walked to the chair lightly and sat down. Collector came to the table. He looked at the fake infinite gems in his hand. Even if you know it's fake, collectors cherish it very much in their hearts. Because even if it is fake, it is the only fake gem in this universe. No second counterfeit infinite gems will ever be found. And it's still so perfect. So, the collector reluctantly wanted to return the fake gem to Ivan. Ivan looked at his expression. That expression is full of heartache and reluctance, a little distorted. But the hand still held the gem and forced himself to stretch it out. Ivan shook his head with a smile, picked up a fruit and took a sip. It's like paying for fruit. Click. Ivan tried one and it tasted good. Thank you very much. The collector heard what Ivan said. Immediately there was an expression of ecstasy on his face. Holding the gem, he looked left and right in the museum, looking for something excitedly. Ivan knows. He is looking for a place. Find where to place these 3 infinite gems. Collector made several turns. In the end, I chose the position above the table, and then a little back. This way when the collector is sitting at the table, infinite gems will shine behind it. Good choice. Ivan appreciates it. The collector uses the instrument to fix the counterfeit gems. He just came back while watching. After half a sound, he suddenly reacted and asked Ivan, I believe that you will be able to collect all 6 infinite gems like no one has ever seen before. I can support you unconditionally. But only after you have collected them. Let me collect the remaining 3 infinite gems models. Collector. As the name suggests, he can do anything for the collection. And infinite gems is a fatal temptation for him. He doesn't use infinite gems rough. But he still wants to fight for the imitation of infinite gems made by Ivan himself. For the remaining 3 infinite gems, collector can give almost everything. Ivan squeezed a grape-like fruit and threw it into his mouth. In the realm of knowledge, fruit is super expensive. See your performance. No problem. Hearing that Ivan did not refuse, the collector immediately took the slave girl to get something. Ivan waited for a while. Collector really moved out a bunch of things. Ivan's eyes gleamed with gold. Immediately, all those things were scanned and recorded by him. Just this moment, after reading these materials, Ivan nodded. Collector is still very sincere. These information above records a lot of information not mentioned in the film and television, such as the location, characteristics, and time of each gem. For example, the situation, trends, policies and so on of the various forces in the universe. As long as it's about infinite gems, whether it is people or things or dead things. Collector almost took it out. After moving everything here, collector excitedly introduced, here is all the information I have collected about infinite gems so far. Among them, I have collected the most gems of power. But information on the time gem and soul gem is too rare, and very few people in the universe know about it. Ivan played with a fruit in his hand. Not bad. Although he didn't need these, he was obviously satisfied with the sincerity of the collector. Then he might have a 4th gem model later. That's it. After a while, in the respectful eyes of the collector, Ivan left here. It will take a few days for the Star-Lord people to escape from prison. He couldn't stay here forever. So after leaving the collector's museum, Ivan went back to Earth. In the backyard of Angel's Palace, Natasha Romanoff was lying on the recliner where Ivan usually lay. But it is different from the normal lying position. She was curled up in the position where Ivan lay. The body language speaks for itself. Natasha Romanoff is attached to him now. Spotted someone appeared. Natasha Romanoff didn't even have to look back. Her eyes lit up, and she turned and threw herself into Ivan's arms. Smell Ivan's breath. Natasha Romanoff took a long breath and slowly roared out. Feel the heat on your neck. Ivan patted her on the back. You're a pervert, you smell like this. Smells good, Natasha Romanoff muttered. But the legs gripping Ivan's waist loosened up a bit. Different from usual. Usually Ivan is not there. Neither will Natasha Romanoff. On the contrary, when you are alone, arrange your time well. But after knowing that Ivan is going down to the universe, her heart was instantly chaotic. Distracted, dazed at every move, often stunned. This is the true portrayal of her day. Now Ivan is back. Her heart finally fell. Natasha Romanoff felt better and better, smelling the scent that only belonged to Ivan. Her heart was pounding, and she breathed like Landau in Ivan's ear. Take me to the bedroom. No, right here, you. 2 days passed. Ivan felt that the time was almost there. Then teleported to the realm of ignorance. Once here, he saw a battleship several kilometers long suspended above Ziwu territory. And below the battleship, a dark-skinned Kree with a long hammer. At the same time, Star-Lord, Gamora, Rocket, Groot, Collector, and the shirtless big-handed destroyer Drax all stand in front of the museum's door. And what Star-Lord held tightly in his hand at the moment was the Cosmic Spirit Ball. They looked nervously at Ronan the Destroyer. Star-Lord was obviously cowardly and anxious to ask the Collector, "When will the god you say arrive? We will send it later." Quail was right this time. Rocket agreed with a rifle as big as it was. "It's going to be voted later, buddy." "Dude." Quill turned his head and sneered at Rocket. "You are an animal, not a buddy." "What?" Rocket turned the muzzle angrily 90 degrees and pointed at Quill. "Are you saying that again?" Gamora looked back at the two of them, and there were 10,000 swear words in her heart that she wanted to scold. And the shirtless Drax saw Ronan. He couldn't help but avenge his hometown that had been destroyed. And in this group of people, maybe only Collector and Groot are more calm. The former is fearless. The latter is just plain stupid and doesn't know what's going on. There are many people who know no territory. But with the arrival of the accuser Ronan, they have now gone into hiding. After all, this war madman is quite famous. He disregarded the peace agreement signed between the two civilizations, and still took action against the people of their civilization. After all, according to his explanation, the war is stopped. But his revenge is not over yet. And he went to Thanos just like Loki did. Thanos promised him, "Just bring the cosmic ball back." Thanos helped Ronan destroy the Nova Empire. So Ronan's purpose is clear. Take the cosmic ball and let Thanos destroy the Nova Empire. Ronan took his big hammer and landed on the ground, watching Gamora in combat. "You betrayed me, and you betrayed your father, Gamora." "You too." Gamora took a sip. "The purpose of getting the gem is to destroy civilization, and my father wants to destroy half of the life in the universe. You are not good things. You're so arrogant, Gamora." Ronan pointed at Gamora with a hammer and said, "Let him give me the cosmic spirit ball, and you can return to your father in peace." "Why?" Star-Lord looked confused. He raised the ball in his hand. "You guys are going to fight for this? What the heck is he? It's about good cosmic life." "Whatever, Quill." The Rockets pouted. "You just need to know that it's worth 4 billion. As soon as I heard 4 billion, Star-Lord nodded in agreement. "Sure enough, money matters. Looks like you're looking for death." Ronan smiled coldly and was about to step forward with a hammer. But Collector took a step forward, wrapped in his coat. He looked at Ronan and said slowly, "The gods are also looking for the cosmic spirit ball. Do you want to be an enemy of him?" "God," Ronan thought to himself. In his impression, there is no such person. "I admire you, Collector, but advise you not to interfere." Facing the tough Ronan, Collector looked annoyed and stiff. 24. But the orb is a big deal. This is likely to contain important news about infinite gems. If infinite gems falls into Ivan's hands, then Ivan with 4 infinite gems will surely be able to shelter him safely. And it will also give him a collection that is unique in the universe. So why doesn't Collector help Ivan fight? He looked at the people around him and shouted, "In the name of Collector and Diffin Group, help me hold down Ronan, and will be rewarded handsomely afterwards." With the shout of Collector, there are still some people around who want to help him. But a battleship the size of the Ronan Dark Star hovered overhead. "Just look at their little ones." The crowd could only hold back. "Looks like we're finished." Rocket looked at the indifferent people around him. "Should I swear something else?" "Enough." Star-Lord holds his triangular submachine gun. "Can you stop talking so much?" Even though he said so, Star-Lord secretly squeezed his eyes at Rocket. "It means just a little longer." Rocket gave him a wink. But it wasn't what he expected. "Ah, Ronan." Drax suddenly growled. Then he rushed up with 2 knives in the surprised eyes of everyone. I am going to kill you. Wait. 33. This idiot. Rocket looked at Drax and cursed for a while. It was a good plan. It was actually messed up by this idiot. Rocket shook his head straightly. Gamora covered her face in embarrassment. It's all played to this stage, and it can still be disrupted by the pig teammates. Watching Drax rush over, Ronan smiled contemptuously, then stepped forward with a hammer. The results are obvious. Before moves, Drax was hammered and flew out. The Kree have been rigorously trained in combat from an early age. Their normal fighting consciousness and level are much higher than other civilizations in the universe. So it's normal that Drax can't beat Ronan. Watching Drax simply lose. Rocket sighed. It seems that this 4 billion is not easy to get, and we are going to fight a fierce battle. Gamora nodded. She is not for the 4 billion. She simply didn't want the gem to fall into the hands of Thanos or Ronan. Star-Lord quietly tilted his head and asked the Collector. When will the god you say arrive? Who is he? This is a large warship. That's right. Rocket also agreed. Who the hell are you talking about? The buddy can only run away with the spirit ball. Collector holds a silver crutch. He looked at Rocket and Star-Lord. Don't you all know about the civilized invasion of the Chitauri civilization? This statement came out. Rocket and Star-Lord turned their backs to Collector and shuddered. After half a sound, they both turned around and asked in disbelief. Are you sure it's that person? Really? If it's true, then I can fight it. Collector smiled. If it's fake, why am I standing here against Ronan? Heard here. Rocket Raccoon and Star-Lord suddenly realized. Collector is strictly a neutral faction. He does not explicitly help any power. Not against any force. But now, he has stood on the opposite side of Ronan. And the people behind Ronan, many people may not know who it is. But Gamora knows. The person behind Ronan's dealings is Thanos. Gamora glanced back at Collector. That is to say, the Collector has clearly lined up. This behavior is enough surface. The people behind Collector can easily confront Ronan. Even, Gamora thought about it. If you can fight Thanos, that's even more desirable. Boom. In the process of public discussion, Drax was smashed into the trash with a hammer. Everyone looked at Drax, and then at Ronan who was walking forward. Looks like I have to fight him. Come on then. Ronan held the hammer and looked at the crowd who were eager to try. I really don't know who gave you the courage. Ronan waved his hand. Destroy them. Immediately, many ships began to fly from the Dark Star battleship. They are all combat ships. And it is much more advanced than the ships of the Chitauri civilization. Boom, boom, under the attack of the energy cannon. Many parts of the Knowing No territory were blasted to pieces. Come on. Drax rushed out of the trash heap. It's like sounding the horn of war. Come on. The Rockets also shouted. Chi-Chi rushed up with his weapon. But the next moment, they stopped and looked up at the sky. Turn out to be, in the next moment of their charge, a huge golden sword shadow tens of kilometers long fell into the sky and chopped down the location where the dark asterisk stopped in the air. Only 1 or 2 kilometers away. But the golden sword shadow reaches at least 10 to 20 kilometers. Such a large sword shadow appeared above his head. For a time, everyone stopped timidly. And a powerful deterrent force made them unable to move an inch, unable to move their legs. Ronan was a little confused when he watched everyone suddenly stop. What's wrong with you guys? Why did it stop suddenly? Sudden. A creepy aura also emerged from behind him. That deterrent force made the back of Ronan's head numb involuntarily. It was as if his head was about to fall to the ground in the next second. Ronan turned his head and looked behind him. This look just left him stunned in place. The dark asterisk is his entire fortune. If there is no dark asterisk, it is equivalent to a broken leg. That's why Ronan yelled like that. But the golden sword shadow has fallen. As usual, dark asterisk didn't change at all at first. Even if the sword shadow cuts through the middle. The dark asterisk didn't change for 2 seconds. But by the 3rd second, the structure and operation of the Dark Star could no longer hold up. Powerful energy erupted from the cut. Same as the Chitauri mothership. Explode from the middle, then spread towards the sides. And, because the dark asterisk stops in the atmosphere. That is to say, watch the fire burst. The combat experienced Rocket immediately covered his ears. Gamora and Star-Lord immediately reacted when they saw the appearance of the rocket, and quickly covered their ears. Next moment, boom boom boom, huge amounts of explosions sounded like the scene of a nuclear explosion. The super loud noise swept the surrounding dozens of kilometers with waves of energy. Dark Asterisk's engine is so massive and full of energy, so it exploded, and the energy from Ivan's slash was too great. Rocket has plenty of battlefield experience, so just seeing the flames of the explosion, it knew it was time to put its head down and cover its ears. The aura of the explosion was too huge. The surrounding houses, street lamps, garbage dumps, etc. were all blown away. Not only garbage is flying in the sky, even some houses were blown into the sky. This is no less than a super typhoon suddenly coming. Wait until the aftermath of the explosion slowly fades away. My God, Rocket raised his head in shock. This is the most awesome battlefield I've ever seen. This is also the most fantastic battlefield I've ever seen. Star-Lord murmured while looking at the broken Dark Asterisk. What kind of ability is it? There is actually a sort of dozens of kilometers in the sky to cut warships. Isn't it an energy cannon bombing now? Groot at the moment did not speak. It just silently watched the explosion. The fire still burning reflected in his eyes. In this world where only Ronan is sad. Holding the hammer, he slowly shook his head. He couldn't believe that such a powerful battleship was slashed by a single sword. Now he finally knows. Who is the god that Collector is talking about? It turned out to be the god that appeared when the Kitarui civilization attacked the Earth. It turned out that he was called a god. No way. Ivan has been in the universe for too little time. Many people know him, but there is no unified name. But don't worry, since then, this name will be recognized by the public. At this moment, a spaceship stopped beside Ronan. This is the ship that came down before the Dark Star. So it survived. Ronan reacted and seized the opportunity to board the spaceship. Go and inform Thanos. The moment Ronan left, Drax Anti came over and threw an axe at him. Pissed. Since Ronan hadn't reacted yet, he was directly slashed in the chest by the axe. But he's out of time. He could only look at Drax angrily and then boarded the spaceship and left. And Ivan doesn't have time for so much. This is what interests him. Only the cosmic ball, slowly falling from the sky. Ivan landed directly next to Star-Lord. Star-Lord looked at Ivan, who suddenly appeared, and then looked at the cosmic ball and Collector in his hand. He knew he was going to give the ball. Don't wait for Ivan to reach out. Star-Lord couldn't wait to pass the hot potato to Ivan. But the next moment, as soon as his hand slipped, the cosmic spirit ball fell. Star-Lord was startled, and immediately bent down in the air and picked it up and handed it to Ivan. Then he gave an embarrassed and happy smile. Ivan smiled. I didn't expect this picture to appear on my body. Take the cosmic ball. Ivan threw it into the dark plane with one grip. Look at the appearance of Star-Lord. Ivan smiled and asked, what reward do you want? Heard. Star-Lord looked around, then looked at his teammates. Money. Very good and sincere. But there is no cosmic currency on Ivan. There is also no cosmic account. I can pay them. Collector volunteered. 4 billion is a huge amount of wealth for the average person. But for Collector, money is not a problem. No, it just happens to be rewarded to you together. But Ivan refused. 1 yard owned by a yard. There is a reward for merit. Money is too easy for him. Ivan looked at the Collector. A wave of the hand reveals 2 things. One is a replica of the Power Stone. One is precious ores. The former is Collector's. Otherwise, let the Collector convert it into money and call Star-Lord. These 2 things. He generated it with the reality gem without much effort. It's that simple. With power gems. Then the last in the universe, only soul gem. It's also not difficult. With mind gem, he can make one person love another person to the death. Just use mind gem to make 2 diabolical people fall in love. Then use mind gem to control love and kill. Then soul gem should appear. As for whether it will be found as a failure by soul gem, how do you know if you don't try? Ivan is also blind. Because he is also using the infinite gems ability, since the 2 belong to the same source, they should be able to succeed. Ivan, who has already got 4 infinite gems, is rarely free. Now he needs to find 2 people to plan the future. Otherwise, I can't trade Natasha Romanoff for Soul Gem. In a cosmic transit station. There are many, many relay stations like this in the universe. Because many transfer stations are mixed, it is a good place for some cosmic fugitives to rest. And Ivan also took a fancy to this, and would choose to come to such a place. Have you heard about what happened in the land of ignorance? Said a man with purple skin and a beast-like appearance. A large group of people were surrounding him. Ivan didn't expect that he just got the power gem, and the news has already spread. It's a long way from Ziwu territory here. Come on, don't hang our appetites. The person on the side couldn't help urging. Don't worry, let me tell you who the protagonist is this time. You all know about the battle in Chidori not long ago. Having said this, the purple-skinned orc stopped to give the others time to think. You wouldn't say that the person who directly killed the Chidori battleship by himself. Said Roar in shock. Really, I also heard about that fight, and Chidori had no strength to resist at all. More than that, it's no different from a massacre. Come on, what happened this time in the realm of ignorance? Ivan noticed that a man in black armor suddenly appeared near the group of people talking. However, at a transfer station like this, many people approached to listen to the news that they were interested in. So that group of people didn't really care about such people appearing. But Ivan could sense that there was a strong power in the man in the black armor. Definitely, the strength that is not weak here is not compared with himself. The current Ivan can be described as an invincible player in the universe. Even with Thanos, who has collected all 6 infinite gems, Ivan has the power to fight. However, now that Ivan has 4 infinite gems in his hand, obviously Thanos has no chance to fight him. Thanos probably knew that he was not his opponent, so he never appeared in his field of vision, Ivan thought. Ronan appeared in the realm of knowledge, and he confronted the collector with his dark asterisk. The purple-skinned orc said confusedly. He has been drinking a lot, so he has a big tongue. Since Guardians of Galaxy is not well known, most people think that it is the collector who is confronting Ronan. Then a golden giant sword appeared, which directly clicked Ronan's dark asterisk. The purple-skinned orc said with a gesture. Don't brag, I've seen dark asterisks, dozens of miles in length, what a powerful method. Someone said in a suspicious tone. Hey, I know some of you don't believe it, I have a video on the spot here. However, this is not free news. The price is not 2,000, and I will release the video when you get it all together. The purple-skinned orc pointed to his arms and said. This made the people below dumbfounded. They are all gangsters or fugitives in the universe. They are all people who can live a day. If they want to get money from them, it is more difficult than going to the sky. Everyone, you look at me, I look at you, there is no sign of paying any money. This is carbon sodium steel, is it worth it? A piece of silver black fist-sized metal was thrown onto the table. It was the metal thrown by the man in the armor who had been listening to the conversation. Hearing what the armored man said, the purple-skinned orc hurriedly got up, took out a strange instrument out of nowhere, and checked the metal on the table. It's really carbon sodium steel, it's a magical metal that can suppress the powerful recovery effect. It's definitely worth the price. The purple-skinned orc was very happy and took the carbon sodium steel on the table. Although this is only the fist file size, as long as it is placed on the black market, the value can be doubled. This is the video called The God of the Gods and Ronan Fighting, please watch. The purple-skinned orc took out a small cube and handed it to the man in the armor. With the pressing of the finger, the golden lightsaber released by Ivan appeared on the square. Seeing such a scene, the armored man's body also stiffened. Obviously it is difficult to believe that the so-called gods have such strength. But Ivan didn't see this scene. When the purple-skinned orc took out the cube, he had already found the target he wanted to find. In the room above the transfer station, the 2 people in front of Ivan looked at him in horror. Who are you? We are Kree people and are protected here, said the man. The woman beside her also joined in. Oh, are you really Kree? Ivan said suspiciously. Boom, boom. After the sound of 2 body collisions sounded, the faces of the 2 people changed. The appearance of Chidori is directly exposed. Who are you? Why can you see our disguise? The man looked shocked. Whether it's Ivan's sudden appearance in their room or direct debunking of their disguises, it's hard to believe. Moreover, when attacking, they can't catch the opponent's movements at all. A layer of cold sweat was already breaking out from the backs of the two Chitores. Oh, didn't you two also participate in the invasion of the Earth? Why don't you recognize me? By the way, I should have not put on this dress. Ivan put on He Chao's combat uniform. The two Chitores in front of them hurriedly stepped back as if they had seen some wild beasts. Only now did they know that the man in front of them was the demon who destroyed the Chitori fleet. But why did he find out, Lise, that he was here? In fact, Ivan was lucky, and just happened to perceive that there were two Chitores upstairs, so he bought this scene. Okay, without further ado, you have been commandeered by me, Ivan said. Before Chitori could say anything, Ivan activated the power of Mind Gem and directly tampered with their consciousness. Fortunately it's a man and a woman, otherwise I'll be disgusted. Ivan said with a sigh of relief. For the use of gem power, Ivan is very skilled. Directly transform them into two people who love each other very much, but the ultimate goal is to obtain Soul Gem, and he is the one who knows how and where Soul Gem is obtained. Okay, it's over, Ivan said. The spiritual transformation takes a while, and taking advantage of this time, Ivan takes the two directly to the location of the Soul Gem. Here is, my head hurts, Sanguine, you're here too, wake up. First, the male Chitori wakes up. And Chitori, a woman called Sanguine, was soon awakened. D Havoc, what's wrong with us? Sanguine asked. Ivan saw this scene and knew that he had changed his appearance. Have you forgotten? You asked me to bring you here. Ivan appeared in a black robe. Facing the appearance of Ivan, the two covered their heads and began to recall. I remember, Sanguine, this is where the Soul Gem is, and we'll be getting the Soul Gem soon. D Havoc said excitedly. Honey, it's such a happy time. Sanguine kissed D Havoc directly. The two kissed passionately. This time, Ivan was even more glad that he had found two Chitores who were both males. Okay, because the space fluctuated when we came here, so there were some small accidents, and you all passed out. If there is nothing else, I will leave first, Ivan said. In fact, he first found a place to hide, and observed the movements of the two Chitores at all times. Sanguine and D Havoc directly saw Ivan disappear in place, that is, Ivan used space ability to leave here. Sanguine, I don't know why, but I always have some uneasy feelings. D Havoc said while holding Sanguine. Honey, it's okay, as long as we get the Soul Gem, we'll be safe. Sanguine comforted D Havoc. In Ivan's setting, both themselves and the race behind them need the power of the Soul Gem to eradicate the disease. And the two are very much in love. This will make two people who love each other choose to sacrifice one person for Soul Gem. Only Mind Gem's ability can make two intruders who had done all evil turn into people who died for the sake of righteousness. Sanguine D Havoc cautiously explored forward. There's no road ahead, D Havoc said. In front of the two was a bottomless cliff, and there was no trace of Soul Gem at all. That person didn't lie to us, right? Sanguine said viciously. She was definitely referring to Ivan. Probably not. Let's go over and see, D Havoc said, frowning. Just as the two approached the cliff, there was an extraordinary movement around them. The inexplicable black aura poured out from all around and gradually gathered in one place. D Havoc and Sanguine reacted quickly when they saw such a situation. The two took out their weapons and aimed at the gathering place of black aura. Who? D Havoc snapped. Gia, I am the caretaker of the Soul Gem, the Asgardian of the treasure house of supreme power. If you want to gain the power of the gem, you must give up the one you love. Black Mist said after forming a human shape. Favorites, no, it won't be like this. D Havoc can't believe it. On the other hand, Sanguine also had a heavy expression. But what's interesting is that this black fog is not talking to D Havoc and Sanguine, but looking at Ivan who is watching them from a distance. Oh, interesting. Ivan did not continue to hide it, and appeared directly in front of D Havoc and Sanguine. D Havoc and Sanguine at the moment are overwhelmed. What's the situation? Why is the person who sent them here? Didn't he leave? With a wave of Ivan's hand, the two Chitores were knocked unconscious. Do these two people not fit the rule of love? Ivan asked suspiciously. It stands to reason that infinite gems should be of equal value, as existences that do not interfere with each other. They are not the people who really love each other, and there is no one who loves the most in their hearts, but in your heart, there is someone you love the most. The Black Fog man's hoarse voice sounded. Ivan knows who the Dark Mist is talking about, CEFH, but it's impossible for him to sacrifice Natasha Romanoff to Soul Gem. What if I force it? Ivan said, raising his fist. He has now absorbed the energy of 3 infinite gems, and 1 power gem has not yet had time to absorb it. But 3 infinite gems are much stronger than 1 soul gem anyway. You can give it a try. The Black Mist said calmly, and even gave way to Ivan. Ivan is also unequivocal, directly over the Black Fog people, flying down the cliff. Ivan probably guessed the identity of the Black Mist. The Red Skull of the original plot can't be the Asgardian of Soul Gem, so the closing of the timeline will naturally allow others to act as Asgardian of Soul Gem. But this Asgardian has no intention of guarding the Soul Gem at all. Obviously he doesn't think that Ivan can get the ability of Soul Gem without paying a price. Boom! Huge amounts of explosions rang out. Ivan's fist condensed violent energy like a whirlwind, directly piercing the bottom of the cliff, and he could directly see the empty universe behind him. No other energy aura? Ivan asked suspiciously. He didn't perceive the special energy of infinite gems. A golden flash appeared in Ivan's hand, and he planned to destroy this area directly, so that he could always find the place where the soul gem existed. Under Ivan's ruthless iron hand, the entire area was turned into fly ash, but the fluctuations in the energy of infinite gems could not be perceived. The Black Fog people in the distance were also wiped out several times, but they were quickly reborn in the same place again, and they looked like nothing had happened. Seeing this situation, Ivan had no choice but to give up. Use the infinite gems, realistic ability directly to restore everything. This is the ability of Reality Gem, which is very good. The Black Mist man still looked dull. Ivan didn't pay attention to it, but left here directly. Since he couldn't get the soul gem by himself, Ivan definitely didn't need to stay and chat with the Black Mist. The idea of using Mind Gem to fake someone in love just doesn't work. In this case, Ivan will have to think of other ways. As for letting Thanos in the muddy waters, don't even think about it. Thanos is no fool either. Now Ivan has 4 infinite gems, and 1 time gem in the Ancient One Magician, which is Earth. Even if Thanos got the soul gem, he couldn't beat Ivan who had 4 infinite gems, so he came here to give the gems. And Ivan also doesn't want Thanos to trade Gamora for soul gem, which is not his style. He doesn't like to use such means, and these 2 Chidori have such consequences because they invaded the Earth. Soul gem is a little trickier now, Ivan said in annoyance. After the failure of the experiment, Ivan returned directly to the Earth. Now the timeline on Earth should only end with the Great War of New York. Ivan hasn't been in the universe for a long time, so things are pretty quiet for now. The Mind Gem has been devoured by me now, so Ultron and Vision can't be produced. Ivan suddenly thought. In this way, the subsequent plot will definitely not be right. Until then, Ivan can still be traced. Now he needs to think about how to get the soul gem. My love, this is really difficult. Ivan muttered to himself. What's wrong, Ivan, when are you coming back? Natasha Romanoff said unexpectedly. Ivan definitely perception arrived with the arrival of Natasha Romanoff. During these few days, Natasha Romanoff will come to his home whenever he has free time, just want to see Ivan as soon as he comes back. And what Ivan said just now happened to be heard by Natasha Romanoff, and it turned out that Ivan said that he was his favorite person. A woman in love is very easy to be satisfied, and Natasha Romanoff feels very happy with such a simple sentence. I just came back, and now I have to absorb the power of the power gem, wait a moment. Ivan said softly. Natasha Romanoff stepped back, giving Ivan enough room. The gem of power manifests in his dark plane. Start swallowing. Ivan gave a simple command. After the power gem emitted a purple light, it merged into the center of the engine. Ding! Start the infinite engine, and capture the infinite gems. Capture successful. Swallowing. Devouring. And Ivan just had to wait for the radio engine to devour. This kind of swallowing is very convenient. Ivan can directly maximize the power of infinite gems without relying on the power of Infinity Gauntlet. Natasha Romanoff watched from the outside as a purple light appeared on Ivan's body, presumably this was the power of the Power Stone. The purple light became more and more intense, and there were many energy fluctuations in Ivan's body, as if it were an inexhaustible energy engine. Not only that, Ivan also clearly felt the growth of his own strength. Power gems can provide unlimited power for the user. Such a single effect is so simple and so powerful. The current Ivan has unmatched power in the entire universe, and with his original physique, he has reached the height that all beings look up to. Not enough, 2 infinite gems. The power overflowing around was recovered by Ivan, and the space shattered by power fluctuations was also repaired by Ivan. A ray of purple light flashed in Ivan's eyes, and soon returned to normal. Feeling of power. Ivan has never been more content. Ding. Power infinite gems devoured. Unlimited engine core computation frame rate, 220 FPS. A new ability is now unlocked, please accept it. Ivan has already sensed what his new ability is. New ability. Infinite gems. Power has been added. Infinite gems. Strength. Allows you to have absolute power, and can control the source of all power, and can strengthen other infinite gems. In a short sentence, it directly explained the simple and crude ability of the power gem. The current Ivan, who can destroy a planet with just a few gestures, already belongs to the setting of the world's big killer. Ivan, are you okay? Natasha Romanoff asked concerned. She watched Ivan stay where he was for a while, but he had completely absorbed the power gem. Could it be an accident? Natasha Romanoff couldn't help but lean over. Hearing Natasha Romanoff's voice, Ivan came to his senses. I'm fine, now I've gathered the power of 4 infinite gems. Ivan said, holding Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff just thinks it's good to think about it now, and can always rely on Ivan's broad chest. By the way, I almost forgot about business. Natasha Romanoff said suddenly. Ivan looked down at Natasha Romanoff and said, what happened to S.H.I.E.L.D.? It's easy to guess. Counting the time, it's almost time for the Avengers to appear. Yeah, Fury, he didn't know how, he found some good characters of ability, formed a team of Avengers, and I joined in, but I always felt that he was hiding a lot of things from me. Natasha Romanoff said. It's normal, your power is now far beyond the others, and Nick Fury will be vigilant enough for you, Ivan explained. There was nothing he could do about such a skeptic, but Fury was no threat to him now. You can help them, after all, the Earth is still our home. Ivan said to Natasha Romanoff. Now Natasha Romanoff's power is enough to deal with the dangers on Earth. Whether it was the Hydra incident that followed or a possible civil war, Natasha Romanoff could change the tide of the battle alone, without Ivan's hand. After a while with Natasha Romanoff, Ivan left the room again. Himalayas. Ancient One, what do you think of the Soul Gem? Ivan asked. He is now going to Ancient One specifically to see if there is any other way for Ancient One to get Soul Gem directly. The Ancient One looked at Ivan suspiciously. I almost forgot, I went to the place where Soul Gem is, but the rule to get Soul Gem is to sacrifice the person you love the most. Is there any way to bypass this rule? Ivan explained. So, you have gained the power of the other 4 infinite gems, Ancient One said. Ivan nodded. He's just short of the Soul Gem and the Time Gem in Ancient One's hands. The future is terrifying. Ancient One sighed with emotion. 5 infinite gems are far more powerful than 1 infinite gem. Ancient One handed the Time Gem to Ivan. Ivan quickly learned what Ancient One meant. Thanks a lot. Ivan thanked him as he picked up the Time Gem. I didn't expect Ancient One to give up the power of infinite gems so easily. With this perseverance, we can already see how powerful a magician Ancient One is. Coming to a wasteland, Ivan, like a power gem, used a wireless engine to absorb the power of the Time Gem. Ding! Time infinite gems devoured. The wireless engine core operation frame rate is 270 frames. A new ability is now unlocked, please accept it. Time Gem does not increase the frame rate of the engine core, which is also related to the original characteristics of the gem. Compared with Time Gem, what Time Gem controls is time. Now, Ivan is fully prepared. Once again, Ivan is at the place where the Soul Gem is. This time, the Black Fog people appeared. If you want to gain the power of Soul Gem, you must sacrifice your loved one. This is the eternal rule. The Black Mist said in the same tone as before. Really, I don't think so. Ivan doesn't believe in rules, he only makes rules. The power of the Power Stone was aroused, and Ivan's whole body glowed with purple light. This skyrocketing power, it's a gem of power. The Black Mist said in surprise. Even the last time Ivan destroyed this place did not shock the black mist. It's more than that, Ivan said in a labored voice. Purple power jumps from cell to cell in Ivan's body. The Black Fog Man was speechless in shock. No one can use the power gem to such an extent as 523, Ivan. Just in the build-up phase, the space around Ivan was agitated. Ivan used the power of the space gem to solidify the surrounding space barriers, otherwise the space would be broken by the power of the power gem. A huge green clock appeared in front of Ivan. In just a few minutes, the black mist saw Ivan using the power of 3 infinite gems in a row. But he didn't even see the shadow of infinite gems. Could it be? The black fog person thought of a possibility, but he couldn't believe it. In the universe, no matter who has obtained infinite gems, they dare not directly use the power of infinite gems. Force into Thanos, Odin, Ancient One, all rely on the tools that can carry the power of infinite gems, in order to use the power of infinite gems smoothly. But the power of infinite gems on Ivan is gushing out of himself, and obviously using infinite gems to this extent is not too heavy a burden for Ivan, just like his own ability. Therefore, the Black Mist thinks that Ivan may have directly absorbed the power of the gem. But, such a thing has never happened in the entire history of the universe. It really made the Black Fog people guess, Ivan really directly absorbed the power of infinite gems. This is also thanks to his wireless engine. It can only be said that they know nothing about power. Ivan pushed the green clock in front of him forward and painted it over the cliff. The hands on the clock turned frantically. Ivan hits the roll of energy blessing for time gem. Boom! Ivan felt the collision between the gem rules. In that instant, the power of the soul gem emerged. Almost directly defeated the green clock released by Ivan. And the power of the infinite gems in Ivan's body seemed to be lured by something, and all of them were active. Ivan exudes yellow chaotic light, blue brilliant haze, purple steady flash, red hot light, green rhythmic ray. 5 strange lights appeared on Ivan alone. Under Ivan's control, the visions inspired by the 5 gems appear regularly, and he has completely controlled the power brought by infinite gems. The moment the soul gem collided with the other 5 gems in Ivan's body, Ivan felt the power of the universe's rule. Is this infinite gems? Ivan said. He had a feeling that as long as he got all the infinite gems, he might be out of this universe. This is not what Ivan expected. You must know that after Thanos and Stark collect all infinite gems, they need to pay a great price to activate the power of infinite gems, and the power released can also affect the entire universe. Ivan guessed that this should be related to the power that directly devoured infinite gems. Infinite gems are the most primitive and powerful energy in the universe. But where the infinite gems came from, Ivan has no idea. Can't blame him for this. Who would have thought that he would travel to the Marvel Universe? The power of the 5 infinite gems is far from what the soul gem can stop. The green clock is still turning. Above the cliff, energy fluctuations unique to infinite gems gradually emerged, and repeated red filamentous rays of light were slowly appearing. At this time, one fleet after another appeared around. Ivan recognized it as Thanos' Dark Order. But now is not the time to spar with Thanos. Soul Gem is about to emerge from the hidden river of history. Ivan once again increased the output power of the power gem, and the wireless engine was also activated to the greatest extent. The power representing time poured out of Ivan's body. The red light on the cliff condensed into a gem, and the soul gem appeared. Ivan directly ignored the rule to obtain soul gem and condensed soul gem. It's done, Ivan said happily. When the black fog man on the side saw soul gem appear, he had lost his mind and said, "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible." Thanos at the moment has appeared in front of Ivan. Ivan, I recognize your strength, but you are too arrogant, and you have destroyed my plan many times. You are guilty, Thanos said arrogantly. Ivan almost laughed when he heard Thanos' words. No, why did you come here now? I didn't see that I had collected all 6 infinite gems on my body. Ivan showed Thanos the soul gem he had obtained and said. Even if Ivan didn't devour the soul gem directly, he had collected 6 infinite gems in his hands. So in this universe, let alone Thanos, everyone else is no match for Ivan. I said, you are too arrogant. Thanos scolded. I'll show you my defiant capital, Ivan said. The blue light flashed, and the surrounding space was locked by Ivan, and everyone did not want to use space technology to escape this area. Ivan's entire right arm is covered in green and purple light. The power infusion of the power gem, the time gem, allows Ivan to stack thousands of punches in an instant. With a teleport, Ivan bombed directly in front of Thanos. There was no cry of exclamation, no explosion, or the way Ivan imagined Thanos being smashed to pieces. Thanos was just knocked to the ground. Quote question mark. Quote question mark. Both sides were very suspicious. Thanos didn't expect that Ivan himself was much stronger than him. And Ivan wondered why all the infinite gems energy he had obtained had disappeared, otherwise he would have sent Thanos to the goddess of death with the punch just now. For a while, Thanos and Ivan, who fell to the ground, stared at each other for a while. At this time, Ivan noticed that Thanos was wearing a golden oval gemstone around his neck. System, what's going on? Ivan asked. Not only is he now unable to feel the ability gained by consuming infinite gems, but the frame rate of the infinite engine is back to what it was before consuming infinite gems. This made it hard for him to accept. In this way, I definitely can't directly crush Thanos, and it is also a level single universe's other combat power. Ding, due to unknown reasons, the power of infinite gems has been suppressed to the lowest point. A mechanized voice sounded. What unknown reason? Could that gem on Thanos' neck overpower other infinite gems? Asking Thanos now will definitely yield no results. Thanos is not a fool, how could he possibly tell himself the reason for the failure of infinite gems? Arrogant Earthlings, you will pay for your arrogance, Thanos said. Now Thanos is back on his feet and running towards Ivan with his tyrant knife. Joke, you thought I would only use the power of infinite gems? Ivan said. His original strength was not weak. Motivating the power of the 24 bodies of God, equipped with silver wings, and took out the king's life, Ivan's aura instantly skyrocketed. Thanos perceived that the silver wings on Ivan's body were very dangerous to him, and his forward pace stopped abruptly. What's the matter? I'm scared now. How did it turn into a deflated purple potato essence? Ivan said mockingly. Even if Thanos is the most powerful being in the Eternal Titan, he can't resist the cutting of silver wing. Ivan armed silver wings on both sides of his body, not only to speed up his actions, but also to attack Thanos more conveniently. Thanos directly ignored Ivan's taunt. Thinking about it too, Thanos has never been a person who is easily influenced by emotions, and he will not be affected by such a simple method. Fire! Thanos waved his right hand. The fleet of the Dark Order showed its powerful weapon strength, and all kinds of attack weapons were overwhelmingly fired at the place where Ivan was huddled. If you want to bully the less, you have to see who your opponent is, Ivan said disdainfully. Strength like him cannot be hurt by the fleet. A silver light flashed, and Ivan instantly appeared at the forefront of the Dark Order fleet. Thanos, who was in the same place, saw Ivan's speed, and his pupils shrank slightly. At this speed, even Thanos couldn't react. He did not expect that after Ivan lost the blessing of infinite gems, he also had terrifying combat power. At the moment Ebony Maw is much more nervous than Thanos. He stayed in the fleet, and in front of him was Ivan standing at the forefront. The terrifying aura made it difficult for everyone in the fleet to move. Get out. Between life and death, Ebony Maw quickly made a decision. Relying on the acceleration effect given by the silver wings, Ivan directly ignored Thanos who was chasing behind him, and began to destroy the Dark Order. Wong Ming showed huge amounts of sword body, which could destroy the spaceship near Ivan with a single stroke. And Ivan can always avoid all the attacks on the spaceship at an extremely fast speed. Even if some of the attacks have a locked function, the threat can be erased directly with a wave of Wong Ming. Ivan is like a wolf entering a herd, and the fleet cannot resist effectively. Stop! A loud shout sounded. A glaive flew towards Ivan. Ivan waved the king's life and blocked the attack of the warblade. Standing in front of him was the head of Thanos' Black Order, Corvus Glaive. Even Thanos can't beat me, how dare you come over? Ivan pointed at Corvus Glaive with his king's life. Corvus Glaive was silent, and three figures appeared behind him, namely Proxima Midnight, Supergiant and Black Dwarf. Where's Ebony Maw? He escaped, Ivan asked. Then he turned his head to look at Thanos, who had followed him. At the moment, he disappeared, and the battleships of the surrounding dark sects were also swiftly fleeing. Well, let's play with you, Ivan said. As the main lord, Thanos ran away at some point, and Ivan really had no interest in the rest of the Dark Order. Attacking the Dark Order just now was also Ivan's strategy. Although there is definitely no problem if he and Thanos are one-on-one, Thanos is passively beaten properly. But with such a huge fleet around, it would be difficult for Ivan to deal with a sudden well-positioned attack. So Ivan chose to clean up the battleship first. Unexpectedly, after Thanos saw that his combat power was strong, he ran away with the battleship. Ivan also had to say that Thanos escaped very decisively, otherwise he would kill Thanos directly here. How dare you be distracted when you fight with us? Corvus Glaive was furious, and he slashed forward with the war blade. Ivan took Corvus Glaive's attack with ease, without any pressure. Black Dwarf hammered Ivan in the waist to the right of Corvus Glaive. Ivan threw the blade away and slashed the Black Dwarf with a single blow. With the departure of Thanos, Ivan felt that the ability of the infinite gems in his body had gradually recovered. Proxima Midnight grabs Ivan for another distraction and throws the gun in his hand. The moment the gun body was projected, it was directly divided into 3 black rays, and the target was pointing at Ivan. The supergiant on the other side is using his mind control ability to control Ivan. The waves of invisible emanate from supergiant, trying to catch Ivan. Yellow and red light burst from Ivan. The 4 people who fought against Ivan were all covered by such a vision cage and lost control of their bodies. Especially the supergiant who used his mental ability, his body twitched constantly, and he soon died, obviously brain dead. The infinite gems on Ivan came back into action, knocking out Corvus Glaive's gang in an instant. The battle wasn't even over in 3 minutes. The remaining part of the battleships of the Dark Order that did not have time to escape also stayed here forever. But Ivan is not very satisfied. Thanos has the means to affect infinite gems, which is dangerous. Now that he has collected 6 infinite gems, even if someone from the Time Administration comes over, as long as he is in this universe, he is an invincible existence. But if Thanos shows up and makes his infinite gems ineffective, the ending would be tragic. Thinking of this, Ivan became even more curious about the oval golden gem on Thanos' body. What kind of gems can directly affect the 6 infinite gems gathered together? Forget it, go back and devour the soul gem first. Ivan thought about it for a long time, but there was no result. It's better to collect the templates of your own infinite divine body first. The Trinity template plus 6 infinite gems has already met the integrate requirements of the infinite divine body. The gods of higher dimensions have been greedy for Ivan for a long time. In order to ensure that he would not be disturbed to absorb the last soul gem, Ivan came to the far side of the moon. In the dark plane, soul gem exudes a characteristic orange glow. Swallow, Ivan said. A black hole suddenly appeared in the center of the wireless engine, pulling soul gem. With soul gem caught in the wireless engine, Ivan's body soon changed. The first is that the orange mist wraps around Ivan's body, as if washing Ivan's body. Then, the power represented by the remaining 5 gems appeared one after another. Blue, yellow, red, purple, green, orange, all 6 colors of light converge in Ivan's body. Ding! Soul gem has been devoured. Radio engine core operation frame rate, 320 frames. Boom! Before I could integrate Trinity and 6 infinite gems, Ivan's body exploded, forming an invisible mist. But Ivan didn't feel the slightest pain. Instead, he felt that the existence that had been restricting his thinking had been broken. His current thinking speed was very fast. In just 1 second, he could extend his thoughts for 10 times. The cosmic rule also appeared in Ivan's eyes and became clearly visible, and he was even able to change the cosmic rule in his eyes with his own thoughts. And after collecting all 6 infinite gems, Ivan has mastered all the knowledge in this universe by the way, which can be said to be omniscient. The Trinity, Space Gem, Mind Gem, Reality Gem, Power Gem, Time Gem, Soul Gem are now collected. Whether to integrate the Trinity template and the 6 infinite gems. The system prompt sounds. Ivan doesn't even need to think about it, just let the system integrate. The Trinity integrates and evolves with 6 infinite gems, and successfully collects templates. Infinite Divine Body. After loading the Infinite Divine Body, the invisible fog transformed by Ivan changed again. The fluctuation of the violent storm formed a golden body exuding a terrifying atmosphere, invisible, and the whole body was shrouded in pale golden light. This is. Ivan tentatively raised his right hand to look. Through the pale golden light, he could see a little bit of starlight in his hand, as if a universe was wrapped in his body. Infinite divine body. Ability is unknown. The system introduced the ability of infinite divine body in just 4 words. But now Ivan doesn't need a system to explain. He can feel that he can indeed create the prototype of the universe in his body. The current Ivan is equivalent to the existence of the creator. However, you still need to practice slowly for your own ability. Now, let me see what the unknown gem on Thanos' neck came from, Ivan said. After he has collected all 6 infinite gems, he is the ruler of this universe. Infinite gems built the rules in this universe, and now Ivan is the maker of the rules in the universe. Self-gem, Ivan said in shock. The extra cosmological knowledge in Ivan's mind records the origin of the golden oval gemstone held by Thanos. There are not only 6 infinite gems, there is also the most special 7th infinite gems, the self-gem. And Ivan also discovered that the 6 infinite gems plus the ego gem were all split from a being called Nemesis. Nemesis existed when the universe was born. And very powerful. Just spying on Nemesis from the lore gained on infinite gems, Ivan already had a mental tingle. Nemesis got tired of her own existence, so it split into 7 infinite gems. The mind, consciousness, and knowledge of the Nemesis resides within the ego gem. The other 6 infinite gems are ultimately the power of Nemesis herself. Only then did Ivan know that at that time, the failure of his infinite gems ability was due to this reason. If Nemesis split into 7 infinite gems, what would happen if I collected all 7 infinite gems? Ivan's curiosity arose. No, you can't do this, a magnificent voice sounded. Ivan watched around, unleashing his perception ability to the max. The entire universe was within his perception coverage, and even Thanos could see clearly where he was now. However, he could not find out who the voice was just now. It is because of this that Ivan has determined the answer. Observer, why are you blocking my decision? Ivan asked. Yes, Ivan was sure that the observer was speaking just now. The observer in Marvel has always existed as a bystander, so Ivan has never considered the threat from the observer. But I didn't expect that I didn't see the visitor from the Time Administration first, but discovered the observer instead. Earthlings, you have to understand that what you are thinking of is a taboo thing that may lead to the destruction of the universe, said the observer. At the level of Ivan, it is not difficult to find the observer, so the observer is not surprised. But he also wondered why this earthling in front of him directly stated his identity. But because Ivan's thoughts were too scary, the observer chose to stop Ivan's thoughts. Don't you think it's rude to talk in the dark? Ivan asked rhetorically. Ivan generally knows the strength of the observer. In addition to being able to travel between universes at will, in fact, the strength of the observer is around the level of multi-universe. After integrating the infinite divine body, he already has the strength of the top multi-universe, and naturally he does not need to be afraid of the observer. And this is still in his own universe, and he can control the rules of the universe more proficiently, and observers have no chance of winning against him. After the observer heard Ivan's words, they didn't think much about it and chose to appear in front of Ivan. Because the observer can always observe what is happening in the universe and know that Ivan is not a murderous person, there is a possibility of negotiation. The space in front of Ivan suddenly shattered, and a humanoid life-form wearing a spherical glass cover appeared. Wearing a blue cloak, the exposed limbs have blue folds. Such outfits are indeed very similar to Ivan's cognitive observers. But observers don't know that Ivan already knew what he looked like. Let's talk about why you can't collect all 7 infinite gems, Ivan said. He has strong strength. If the observer does not have a suitable explanation, he naturally does not need to care what the observer thinks. In fact, although the observer is said to be a neutral existence, its purpose is to allow the civilization in the universe to be inherited, so it is regarded as a righteous party. 7 infinite gems were split from Nemesis, the observer said slowly. Ivan is not happy anymore. Stop, you don't need to say this, just tell me what will happen if I collect all 7 infinite gems. Ivan said. The observer paused and said, it will bring the originally silent goddess of Nemesis back to life. No one knows what the goddess of Nemesis is thinking. She has unmatched power in all universes, and has the most terrifying ability. Ivan really didn't know that 7 infinite gems could bring Nemesis back to life. No, if I collect all 7 infinite gems, then I must not be her savior, I must give me something. Ivan said. Listening to the tone of the observer, Ivan knew what kind of existence the Nemesis was, far beyond the multi-universe level, at least an almighty universe level, or even an exceptional existence. Such life forms can indeed threaten the safety of all universes. No, the meaning of Nemesis's existence is to destroy and challenge. I was born in the same period as her, and I have seen countless universes forever silent because of her. The observer broke Ivan's illusion. Observer words Ivan can still trust. Infinite gems was originally a violent existence. If the original strength of the person holding infinite gems is not up to the standard, it will be easily counterattacked by the power of infinite gems, causing irreparable damage. From this, it can be seen that Nemesis is definitely not a peace-loving person. I promise you this request, but what benefit can I get? Ivan said to the observer. This time Ivan's reversal made the observers silent for a while. What does it mean? I kindly came here to remind you to avoid danger and ask for benefits like me. Before the observer could speak, Ivan moved again. This is my magic engine. I believe you have seen it. As long as you buy it, I will not collect the 7 infinite gems together. Ivan said to the observer with a blue magic engine in his hand. Observers definitely know what Ivan has in his hands. But Ivan's request was strange. For a while, he said that he wanted to benefit, and for a while he said that he had to buy his goods. What kind of operation is this? When is it to buy and sell by force, CEFH, to benefit others? Is it because you have been alone for too long and are too backward? What is your price? I don't have any cosmic currency, the observer said. He also knew what effect the blue magic engine in Ivan's hands had. Can get what they need. With such a magical means, observers are also curious about what they can get. The price is not much, there is only one condition, the way you travel between different universes. Ivan raised a finger and said. Definitely yes, but you have to promise me a condition, otherwise I won't tell you how to travel through the universe. Observer's tone is obviously dignified. You say it first and see. Ivan said. In fact, if the observer insists on not wanting Ivan's magic engine, then Ivan can't do anything about it. While observers fear Ivan's resurrection of Nemesis with 7 infinite gems, Ivan himself is equally frightened. For Nemesis, his multi-universe level is just small arms and legs, and he may be instantly killed by Nemesis. So Ivan didn't dare to go too far with the observer, otherwise the benefits would not get anything. And asking the observer for a way to travel between different universes, Ivan has thought about it carefully. As a neutral observer, the influence on the universe is very limited. So the reward Ivan gets from the magic engine that Ivan sells to the watchers is definitely not much better. But it doesn't matter, what Ivan sees is the ability of the observer to travel the universe freely. You can't interfere too much with civilizations in other universes. This is a contract, the observer said with a seal. After hearing this, Ivan readily agreed. This condition is easy to achieve. Ivan is not a saboteur. The observer motioned to Ivan to stretch out his hand, and the 2 palms rested on the seal. You can just say the conditions you want to abide by, the observer reminded. I don't interfere too much with civilizations in other universes, Ivan said. I bought Ivan's magic engine, the observer said. The 2 of them successfully signed a contract. Both parties feel they have made a profit. In fact, at the multi-universe level, you already have the ability to travel between different universes. It's just that Ivan has just acquired such a powerful ability, so he still doesn't know how high his level is. The observer just gave Ivan the ability to travel between different universes in advance, which is definitely very profitable. That's it, I'm leaving here too, remember not to gather the 7 infinite gems together, the observer said. Don't worry, Ivan said. Ivan isn't worried about Thanos threatening him at all now. It's just to keep the 6 infinite gems from touching the self gem in Thanos' hands. There are many ways to do it. For example, Ivan used his own power to condense a duplication and directly destroy the ego gem. And just like that, the observer got his hands on the magical engine that Ivan sold him. And Ivan's mind quickly came up with how to shuttle to different universes. As long as Ivan thinks, he can go to other universes now. But right now Ivan has no plans to go straight. After all, this is my own home, and I have to deal with this side of things. Because of his own accident, there is no vision to stop Ultron. Also, Hydra in S.H.I.E.L.D. needs Ivan to remind Nick Fury. Then he cured Captain America's good friend James Buchanan Barnes, also known as Bucky. In this way, the conflict between the subsequent Avengers will not break out. Ivan has a lot to do, but he feels that this is not the best way. Not necessarily. Steve has a different philosophy than Tony, so it just keeps their conflict from rising to the point of eruption. Ivan mused. Just when Ivan was thinking about these things, he had returned to his home on Earth, and saw Natasha Romanoff, who was snuggled on the sofa at home, sleeping soundly. Seeing Natasha Romanoff asleep, Ivan didn't choose to alarm her. Why don't I put on a good show? Ivan quickly came up with a good idea. I think it works. Ivan wasn't used to Steve's overly righteous character either. On the contrary, it was Tony who liked him very well. A grand script quickly generated in Ivan's mind. The screen comes to Avengers headquarters, which is the Stark building. Hey man, I don't think you thought I'd come up with something good, Tony said excitedly. It was the superheroes in front of Tony, except Thor. Because of Ivan's threat to Odin, Odin directly took Thor back. Tony, I think you should focus on the business and stop tinkering with the weird stuff. Steve stood up. Tony had an impatient look on his face when he saw Steve speak. Okay, great superhero, what's weird to you? Please don't we clock in for work, a little bit of a hobby. Tony said in a nonchalant tone. The last time you said that, you gave each of us a roar that only played stand-up comedy. Steve said helplessly, pressing his fingers to his head. First, I put a lot of thought into that roar machine, and second, isn't it boring? Is it boring? Tony asked Steve for the first time. Seeing that Steve didn't respond at all, he asked the others for the second time. A lot of people didn't know at this point what to say. Tony's biography roar machine is really indescribable and doesn't help the fight at all. Okay, a bunch of tasteless guys, Tony said with a wave of his hand. And in Queens, Peter Parker is swinging around the city with a red and gold roar. Okay, gentlemen, we've made a major discovery at a location, probably related to HYDRA's secrets. Nick Fury's timely appearance interrupted the conversation. Tony, you and Steve come here. Nick Fury said. Sure enough, it's time to clock into work. Tony said very sadly. But Tony and Steve left the Stark building with Nick Fury. In this area, we found an abandoned arsenal. Nick Fury said to the two. I have a question, since it's an abandoned arsenal, why are we still dispatched? Tony asked. That's a good question, because we also found that other forces were trying to make mutant serums, and all the people we sent out were killed. We don't want to alarm each other until the matter has expanded, so let the two of you go over to collect clues. Nick Fury explained the reason. And at the moment, this should be where Barnes killed Tony's parents. Ivan stood by an abandoned street lamp. I have to say that in order to resolve the grievances between Tony and Steve, we must first start with Tony's parents. But Tony's parents have been killed, so what? What else can I do? Ivan directly resurrected these two people, this is not easy. The power of 6 infinite gems is not something to be said casually. With the blessing of Time Gem, Reality Gem, Soul Gem ability. First, the souls of Tony's parents were unearthed by Ivan, and then the bodies before birth were constructed for the two. However, the rule between life and death requires a mighty force composed of 6 gems to break. This, here is. Howard regained consciousness first. Nice to meet you, sir, but this is not the place to talk. Ivan snapped his fingers and moved the two of them to the place he had prepared. At the moment Tony and Steve have arrived at the location Nick Fury said. There's not even a burger place in such a remote place. Tony said cursingly. JARVIS, start probing the function, Tony said. It's on, sir. Because it happened to be nighttime, even with good eyesight, Steve had a hard time finding something wrong with his surroundings. And Tony's armor at the moment has a great use, a direct light scans it down, and all the details will be exposed in front of Tony's eyes. Tony danced, jumping in one direction. Tony, be careful, Steve reminded. Don't worry, there's no one else here. Tony's voice sounded. Just as Tony's voice fell, there was other movement outside. Call out. There was a sound in the air. Detected creature presence, too fast to lock onto target. Jarvis reminds Tony. What? You said it's a human. Tony felt that the Jarvis had not been repaired for too long and might have malfunctioned. He didn't see anything, only heard something flying by. Such a speed, what kind of person would that be? And Steve was already in a fight, watching his surroundings vigilantly. Footsteps gradually appeared around. By this time, Tony and Steve had settled down, and they were surrounded. More people than to see who killed. Tony didn't panic at all, and even whistled at Steve. I think you should make sure you don't get hurt, Steve said. He had a strong feeling just now that a person appeared near him. Although Steve didn't see it, he trusted his fighting instincts. This group of people is not as simple as Tony thinks. HMPH, boring person. Tony said angrily. Chug. The fire blazed in front of Tony and Steve. Tony's armor directly ignored the bullet's attack. As long as it is not that kind of large-caliber firearms, it is impossible to penetrate his steel armor. And Steve's vibranium shield easily escaped the first round of shots. Next is the performance of the two. Tony turned into a trapeze, and from time to time he would fire an energy cannon. With the aid of Jarvis, he could always hit the target. And Steve played a game of boomerang, throwing the vibranium shield, knocking down several enemies at once. Boom. Suddenly, Steve grabbed the shield and turned around. Looks like I hit something. Steve yelled at Tony. Definitely, it's all about our goals, Tony said. He didn't have time to watch Steve's performance, so naturally he didn't see something wrong with Steve just now. Steve saw that Tony didn't pay attention at all, and he didn't bother to remind Tony anymore, but focused his attention more. From the perspective of the two people's field of vision. It hurts, Captain America's reaction was too fast, like a conditioned reflex. I didn't pay attention and was directly hit by him. A man in silver clothes said, covering his head. Beside him is a woman with big red waves. These two are Quicksilver Pietro, Peter, Maximov and Scarlet Witch Wanda. Then I'll deal with him, you deal with the flying one, Scarlet Witch said to Quicksilver. Just as the two were talking, most of the Hydra troops who remained on the scene had been wiped out. Opposite ordinary people, superhero is the existence of crushing. Such a tactical unit is simply no match for any superhero. Bang! With Tony's energy cannon, the last enemy fell in front of him. No challenge at all, Tony said proudly. 2/3 of the opponents on the field were knocked down by him. And Steve would just throw his shield in place, not even daring to dash into the crowd to fight. It's all settled, Steve, don't be so nervous, Uncle Tony will protect you. Tony couldn't help teasing. But Steve remained unmoved, except that held the shield's hand a little harder. Obviously Tony's words still affected Steve. Tony saw that Steve still didn't respond to him, and knew that Steve must have found something wrong, and immediately observed the situation around him. Steve knew that if he had spoken to Tony, he wouldn't have reacted like that. Sir, detected a rapidly approaching lifeform. Jarvis's voice sounded again. Now Tony knew what Steve was worried about. Tony felt like he was hit by a moving train. On the ground, Steve saw it clearly. Tony didn't know what he was attacked, and after flipping in the air for a few times, he was embedded on the stone wall at the edge. Although Steve looked relieved, he still had to go and help Tony. At the moment Scarlet Witch also quietly approached Steve. A red haze enveloped Steve, interfering with his cognition. It happened that Tony was driven into the wall, and Steve was nowhere to be seen. Steve suddenly felt a familiar air around him. Carter, is that you, Carter? Steve asked in surprise. When Steve saw Peggy Carter, whom he had been thinking about for a long time, beside him, he suddenly forgot that he was in a battle. In reality, it was Scarlet Witch standing by Steve's side. This ability to change other people's cognition is very scary, and invisible can make people lose resistance ability. In Steve's eyes, Carter's eyes were watery, and he nodded to him. Just when Steve was about to step up and hug Carter in front of him, something happened. The vibration of the wings sounded from the other side, and the violent sound represented great danger. A mechanical wasp is attacking Steve. Steve, you're crazy about women, Tony yelled. He finally regained his strength, and saw Steve looking at a woman with red hair and big waves affectionately. Although he also thinks that this woman is very good looking, the estrus also depends on the timing, so he really doesn't have the appetite for fighting in the wild. Don't tell me you're good at it, Tony said somewhat unacceptably. As he spoke, Steve moved, and the huge shield flew towards Tony. Where did Tony think Steve would suddenly attack him, and the shield hit the ground directly? Crazy, I don't need to talk about this, there's no need to silence it. Tony thought he was talking about Steve's pain point. In Steve's eyes, Tony is now a violent mechanical wasp who wants to hurt him and Carter, and naturally he is attacking Tony with all his strength. Quicksilver is now at Scarlet Witch's side. Well done, sister, Quicksilver said. The two are here waiting for the two to fight, and then solve the two together. Being able to kill two superheroes at once is an extraordinary feat. Under Steve's all-out attack, Tony finally realized something was wrong. No, big brother, how did you work hard for your opponent? Tony saw Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch standing in the distance, and knew that Steve's current appearance must have something to do with them. But Tony didn't have the energy to attack the two either. Steve's fighting skills and physical fitness are very strong, plus he didn't counterattack in time at first, and now he is being beaten by Steve. JARVIS, Combat Analysis Preparation. Tony said. If he doesn't turn over any sooner, he'll be smashed by Steve. I didn't expect Steve to be so hard on himself. Analysis in progress, sir. JARVIS said. Before the analysis is complete, Tony can only rely on his own feelings to fend off Steve's attack. Brother, who do you guess will win? Scarlet Witch asked. Looking at it now, Captain America must be stronger. Quicksilver said directly that he was optimistic about Captain America. I also think Captain America is stronger. Scarlet Witch echoed Quicksilver's opinion. The conversation between the two was directly heard in Tony's ears. HMPH, I'll show you what it means to be strong later, Tony said. Boom, I don't know how many times I was knocked to the ground. Through the armor, Tony's face was blue and purple, and it looked like he was badly injured. Fight analysis completed, sir, whether to counterattack. JARVIS's voice sounded in time. That's a question, fight back. Tony said. He was waiting for now. It's Iron Man's turn to attack. In Steve's sight. The mechanical hornet, who had been knocked down several times by him, suddenly started to counterattack, and a tail flick directly pulled him away. Then the tail gathered energy cannons to attack, mastering the rhythm of the attack. Oh, it's like a different person, Quicksilver said. Iron Man, who had been beating in the eyes of the two, suddenly had the means to restrain Captain America, and the situation began to reverse. After cracking Steve's fighting skills, Tony takes over. Roar roar, Steve gasped. From the beginning, the attack of the mechanical wasp in front of him had made him exhausted, and he was hit against the wall by the mechanical wasp several times. That's how I can spend the day with you, Steve said again, standing up. Tony at the moment, who had the advantage, didn't want to end the fight right away. He knew that the two at a distance were their real opponents, and just defeating Steve didn't mean he could win. Boom. In another scuffle with Steve, Tony fired an energy cannon at Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch from a tricky angle. But Tony saw the two suddenly disappear and the energy cannon hit the wall behind them. Empty. In Quicksilver's eyes, Iron Man's energy cannons couldn't keep up with him at all, so he could easily hide with his sister. Tony said miserably. At the speed of the opponent, he has absolutely no way to carry out an effective attack. Just when Tony was distracted, Steve slammed a shield and knocked Tony's visor off. The distance is ability's thorny enemy, and there is a teammate in front of him who has lost his mind and turned to the opposite side. Tony said that he has never fought such a bad battle in his life. And at the moment, Ivan has brought Tony's parents to his house. If you don't dislike it, this is where you temporarily live, Ivan said. Don't get me wrong, Ivan didn't plan to let Tony's parents live in his home. Instead, they used the ability of their infinite divine body to directly allow the two of them to live in another universe. That is, the universe created by Ivan. In order not to limit the freedom of Tony's parents, Ivan engraved the space path connecting his universe on the palms of the two of them. In this way, if they need anything, they can come out on their own. Even encountering any danger, you can escape to Ivan's universe at any time. It's definitely possible, Howard said. He had never seen such a magical ability. Because Ivan didn't explain it, Howard thought Ivan had the means to create an independent space. Even so, With Howard's level of knowledge, he couldn't think of what the principle was. On the way back, Ivan had already told the two of them his name. After the two saw that Ivan had no ill will towards them, they did not intend to restrict their personal freedom, and immediately relaxed a lot. It can be seen that you have a lot of questions in your heart. Just ask them directly. I will definitely say everything I can tell you, Ivan said generously. Ivan thinks he has a good impression of such technical talents. In fact, if Tony had been less tempered, less talkative, and more serious. Forget it, aside from Tony, Ivan is still very fond of tech talents. I remember that we were killed by a man with a metal left arm. Howard said hesitantly, the glint in his eyes representing the very nervous activity in his heart. Although he had guesses in his heart, he still couldn't believe his guesses, so he chose to ask Ivan. You know, you can ask some other questions, Ivan said mysteriously. When Howard heard Ivan's answer, he was stunned for a while. Resurrection from the dead. This is an ability that goes against common sense, and is completely inconsistent with physical rules. What time is it now? Howard said after a while. On the way back, Tony's parents saw that the architectural style has changed a lot, and it is obvious that the perception has improved with the times. So Howard knew that he was definitely not resurrected in a short time after death, it may have been several years, or even decades. That's why Howard was shocked by Ivan's ability. Now Howard just wants to know how long it is now. Ivan answered Howard directly. Decades have passed, is our Tony all right? Maria said sadly. Howard also looked at Ivan. It's a coincidence that I helped Tony in some small things, we can be regarded as friends, although Tony has gone through some small ups and downs, but he has grown very fast, but now Tony is being beaten, Ivan said. When Maria mentioned Tony, Ivan instantly locked Tony's position on Earth. Now Ivan's spiritual power, as long as it is not deliberately restrained, can cover the entire Earth, and everything that happens in every corner of the Earth can be known to Ivan, and there is no burden at all. What? Howard looked at Ivan, then looked outside. It's just the two of them and Ivan here, where is the beaten Tony? Okay, I'm going to save Tony, or maybe I'll be killed, you two enter this space first, Ivan said to Tony's parents. Howard and Maria obediently entered Ivan's universe. Ivanu, who locked Tony and Steve's position, disappeared into his home. Brother, let's just kill the Tin Man, Scarlet Witch said. Who is the Tin Man? Your whole family is Tin Man, you have a clean mouth with the red instant noodles. Tony took time to scold. Scarlet Witch couldn't take it any longer and jumped right into the fight between Tony and Steve. The left hand gathered a red light, pulling a boulder to attack Tony. The right hand controls Tony's movements, preventing him from moving. Steve at the moment had used his joints to lock Tony's limbs, and the boulder was about to hit the two of them together. Ivan's faint phantom has appeared in the air, but no one has found him. Tony, what is he about? Howard said in surprise. Although Tony's parents are in Ivan's universe, as long as Ivan thinks, he can project the external situation to the two of them. So Tony's parents can also see Tony who is struggling. When Ivan saw Tony in danger, he planned to go down to save him, but an accident happened. Tony sprayed behind his back to shoot a brilliant fire, and moved quickly with Steve who locked his limbs, dodging the boulder's attack. Seeing Tony out of danger, both Howard and Maria breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, there is absolutely no need for the two to be nervous, Ivan is here. In this universe, if Ivan does not allow it, it is impossible for anyone to die in front of him. As for why Ivan didn't show up now, it definitely wouldn't be because of his bad taste, simply wanting to see Tony get beaten, but wanting to see how far Tony can persevere, Ivan comforted himself. Don't worry, I'm here. When Tony can't hold on, I'll take action. Now I just want to see how much Tony's strength has improved. Ivan's voice sounded in the ears of Tony's parents. When I said this sentence, Ivan was a little guilty. For some reason, Howard felt that Ivan simply wanted to see Tony get beaten. I shouldn't be on a mission with you today, Tony said viciously to Steve on his back. Steve didn't respond at all and continued to lock Tony's limbs. After all, in Steve's eyes, he has successfully restricted the mechanical wasp's ability to move. JARVIS, power him up, Tony said. Received, sir, said JARVIS. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.